Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 13. An unlucky number for some, a lucky number for others. For us, let's hope it's a lucky one.
It is for us because it's happening. We're doing 13.
We're doing the 13. We're doing it. But yes, hi, I'm Brian the Pirate, and I am, of course, joined by the absolutely lovely
Peachy Pixelate.
God damn it, Peachy.
And I am the very handsome Pulp Fictionally.
There we go. Fantastic.
Devilishly handsome.
Devilishly.
So for today's show, we've got a couple of subjects we'll probably just bounce through. It's more of a, here's an update about the thing that happens every week, and then there's a couple more subjects that we'll probably dive quite a bit into. So before we do that, let's how is everyone doing? Pulp, how's your past week been?
Not too bad. I've been dealing with a lot of wedding stuff lately because it's coming up in October. And I was just telling Brian about how I've been thinking about going back to school after the wedding's done because I can't do that right now. So not too much, just working on stuff behind the scenes.
Do you want to share what it is that you were going into education
Sure.
info?
I'm looking into mortuary science and funeral services. So I can play with dead bodies.
That's pretty metal, dude.
I was gonna say, Peach, are you okay? I'm like, there wasn't a necrophilia joke out of nowhere or something like that. I was like, is he all right?
That's all I got.
Nice.
So I'm trying to hammer through the agenda because I haven't had a chance to see it because I've been streaming.
Yeah, I've been
that's
looking
fair,
at
that's
it myself too.
How about you, Peachy? How's your week been?
It's been good. Nothing's happening tomorrow, and it's all fine. Over to you, Brian.
Oh, okay. Nothing's happening tomorrow. Fair enough. My week's been mostly sleeping. Lots of sleeping. The first.
You said your sleep schedule is all like messed up, right?
Yeah. So obviously, I exhausted myself essentially last week, and it was right when I booked time off just so I could just chill out. So I ended up spending all of my time off just in bed, just sleeping for sometimes as long as like 15, 16 hours a day. And I was just like, why is it always when you're off that you become ill and such? I have managed to get my sleep pattern back on schedule, came back to work. My real life job is not a software engineer, senior engineer. So I've been working.
You engineer seniors?
I do engineer seniors, essentially.
Ooh.
Yeah, so my job before was I was just a service desk engineer. So I just fixed people's problems. I did first line stuff, second line stuff, third line stuff. For those who don't know what that means, first line is like, oh, you forgot your password, let me reset it for you. Third line is, oh, your business is about to collapse because your internal infrastructure is no longer working as it should be. And that's the sort of stuff I would fix.
Which line,
Casual
which
Friday.
level is it that I need to get to before I can ask and answer real questions rather than, is your router plugged in? Which level is that?
I would say that was second line. So that's when you start getting to the technical stuff. Like first line stuff is anyone can do it. Like you just get a guy who goes, oh, your account's unlocked, I'll unlock it. Oh, your password needs resetting, I'll reset it. Oh, you need to reseat the cable, things like that. Second line actually requires technical knowledge, and then third line is far more advanced knowledge because you're doing the infrastructure stuff rather than just user error kind of things. So my job now as a senior engineer is I look after my team. So I still have a manager I report to, but I look after my team. I teach them things. I stay on top of the processes that might be bespoke to certain customers because we're an MSP. So we do services for loads of clients across the country, some in other countries as well. And I keep on top of making sure they are up to date and doing things right. And if they come across an issue that's like really wrecking their brain, they could be like, Brian, I need an adult. And then I'll come over and be like, okay, have you tried this? No, let's try that then, blah, blah, blah.
So you're the babysitter.
Essentially, yeah. I just make sure that if a fire does need putting out, I'm available to put it out. But otherwise, I make sure that my team are smart enough to do the job on their own, essentially. Which means I interact a lot less with people, which is fantastic because I fucking hate people. Because I just have to interact with my team as opposed to some clown who's like, I need help. This is how you fix it. How do I fix it? By reading what I've just told you, kind of thing. Like I used to do, I want to say like a series on my Instagram called IT with Brian. And I would just talk about some of the conversations that I would have with users either on the phone or via chats and things like that. I once had someone where I was like, okay, you just need to click on and then described a button or something on screen. And they went, what is click? And I was like, what do you mean, what is click? And my brain just exploded that they had to ask that question. So yeah.
You started from ground zero on that one.
Yeah, I was just like, what do you
oh
mean,
my
what is
God.
click? You're an adult
so let's talk about, do you know how to walk?
Yeah, like, oh, it was very, very silly. And then people were like, make a t-shirt. So I briefly made a what is click t-shirt. But yeah, so just silly things like that, basically. But I don't have to deal with that all that often nowadays. Should we get on with talking industry news and whatnot?
Industry news.
I'm excited.
We need a jingle, a sting.
We do. More porn music, please. all that. Was that a burp at the end as well?
News.
I swear I heard a burp at the end of that, but never mind. But so yeah, the first subject is there have been rumors, but relatively reliable ones, because there's people in the industry space, like the PR space particularly, who are like, yeah, we've heard this as well. It's a thing. Resident Evil 9.
I'm excited.
You're excited. So as you may
I'm always excited for Resident Evil news. I was actually I haven't been keeping up to date with any industry news this week, just FYI guys, so please don't be mad at me. I didn't know that there was new information about Resident Evil 9, but I do remember there was a leak, I'm air quoting for those listening, that they were going to be more about, it was like supposed to be more Coven or witch based, like that was like really like the whispers, kind of like what's going to be the next what's gonna be the new Zombos.
Yeah, so that's the discussion question. What would you want it to be? Would you want it to be like a standalone thing, like 7 and 8, or do you want it to go back to the original stuff? Or
I really like 7. I like 7 better than 8. I understand that might be a little bit controversial because a lot of people loved 8. I thought 8 was a little too action heavy, but I would like to see it more like 7. I don't want. My biggest concern has been like after playing 8 was after 4 they kind of went that same direction. Like they leaned really heavily into it, and that's how we ended up at 6 and had to do the revamp. So I just don't want them to go more action heavy. So I'm hoping I'll go back more to the 7 roots.
Right. And would you want it to be a standalone thing again, or do you want it to be something related, perhaps to 7?
I mean, I don't. Maybe. I mean, they did leave off the. They had the DLC that came out. What was it? Earlier this year, I think, and it featured Ethan's daughter.
Right.
So I mean, they could do something with her.
Okay. How about you, Peachy? I can't remember. Like, are you big on your Resident Evil?
I like Resi, and I'm not like Pulp. Feral for it.
Excuse me. I just played them.
All of them over and over again.
No, I don't know all the lore and everything. I just really thoroughly enjoy them. I'm more of a Silent Hill fan.
Right.
But like Pulp, I thought 7 was just brilliant. And I, not that I have a problem with 8 at all. That's cool. But I would like to see them go back to a smaller story like 7 was.
Right.
With a more contained area. I mean, you still did go outside of the house for some stuff, but it was a much more contained. It was
just the house property more than anything. Like, it's just a different part of the house.
Yeah. But I mean, you got that bit where you go through is this spoilers? Where you go through all the water stuff and.
Spoilers, no.
Yeah.
It's an older
but
game.
It was mostly contained, and I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
What I'd want is them to do that and then have their spin-off for their action games and maybe go back to the third person over the shoulder, because people do love that action.
They did do that with the DLC. They brought it back, and for 8, you can actually go through 8 with third person now.
Because people are getting their fill with the third person stuff because they're remaking all the other ones, right?
Yeah.
So if they went like Resident Evil 3rd or whatever, and
third person feels like the Resident Evil. When they went first person, it didn't feel so because a lot of indie games does first person, and we've always been able to see the character we're playing. Is that what you mean? It's
as a like the first Resident Evil on PlayStation scared the shit out of me. And third person doesn't.
The shit out of Baby Peachy?
It doesn't, like, now, like, I need more immersion to be scared.
Right.
Not that I'm like scared, but you know, it definitely I'm immersed and I get a bit like, oh, what's happening
adds to
here?
the tension, stuff like that.
There was 2 parts in 8 that did legitimately scare me. I mean, there was obviously the big. It's not really a spoiler anymore. Everyone knows about the big baby. But the DLC, for those who don't know, like my fiance sits next to me when I stream sometimes, and he had to play through that portion of the DLC. There's a part in there that legitimately scared the shit out of me.
Right. I haven't played any of the games, so I can't comment. I think I've watched people play like maybe one or two.
I won't spoil it if anyone hasn't played it, but there are parts that are pretty scary. Like, I don't find 4 scary. Even the remake, I didn't find 4 scary. I found it more tense than anything.
Right.
Tense, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
tense.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw when I was playing, I just got getting overwhelmed. Like, that's just what kept happening. It's like I'm running around getting overwhelmed constantly. And the regenerators, they were like the scariest part, and they're still goofy as hell when they flop around on the floor. It's like, all the fear's gone.
Right.
Yeah,
There's like
I think there's a market for scary Resident Evil first person, a smaller story, but you know, it's still got that Resi vibe of the horror.
I think people really like the more action heavy in Resident Evil because, like I said,
I think there's a market for both of those. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think 8 did a lot better. It was more both games were really well received, 7 and 8. I preferred 7 because it felt like, more claustrophobic. Like you didn't have all these big guns to protect yourself. And
8 is calm in San Diego. You go everywhere, don't you?
8 felt like it felt a lot like 4 when 4 came out. Like, you had it, because I didn't play 3 until like the remake, because like I'm like, for some reason Nemesis scared the shit out of me as a kid, so I didn't touch 3. But so the last one I played before that was 2 was the one I played before, and that was more like the classic Resi style. And when it went, but 4 was like received so well, and that's why I said my biggest concern with 9 is that they're going to do what they did with 4, where they, after that, or not 4, with 5 and 6, how they kind of leaned heavily into the action heavy. And all the fear, like the last 5 and 6, I love 5. I had a lot of fun playing 5, but it's more just because the game's just fun,
right?
Not scary. I don't think there's any part in that game that actually scared me, much less 6.
I think like Resi, the third person Resis, it just got more and more goofy and more action, which is cool.
Right.
Like, that's still fun, and I understand why people just are drawn to that. Because I like horror games that aren't necessarily scary. They just got a theme of horror, right?
So would you say you prefer like the option of having first person Peachy?
Well, no, because I think you need to build a first person and a third person game very differently.
Yeah.
Well, they did. Well, that's why they did the third person option, and it came later. It was first person still, but if you buy the DLC, you can play in first person or third person again. I'm sorry.
You can play the original game in third person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they should do that. I think they should craft a third-person game or a first-person game, or both, preferably both.
Well, the DLC, because the DLC is in third person, and I remember people got kind of hyped when they saw the third-person option. I think I went through it. I think I started a game, but once I've beaten the game, I've all the surprises are gone. I have a hard time playing through games multiple times unless it's like a game I liked when I was younger. So I haven't played through it again thoroughly with third person. But I know some people were really stoked on that. I don't mind the option being there, but I do agree that I think the first person works better for the fear
Something
factor.
is going to be lacking if you convert a third person to a first person or a first person to a third person. You're going to miss out on something.
Well, it's like, okay, so like there's a part in the first game in 7. I keep saying first because like of the 2, it's the first one. So don't mind me if I slip up like that. There's like that scene like in the very beginning when because where the first person works best, and you're checking, it was right after you fought Mia, so it's at the very beginning, and Jack is right behind you, the big guy, and like that's not going to work the best in third person. That specifically worked for first person. So I agree with you. I think you're right. There would be something lacking if they gave you that option.
So for the record, I don't think they're going to make 2 games. There's no way they'll go. Here's the one that we've got new fans with, and here's what everyone likes about the old stuff. I mean, they're still doing well with their remakes, but what's next?
Veronica.
5? What's the next remake to do?
5.
It is 5.
I do want to see 5. really interested to see what they're planning to do with that, because
The people who like the action games deserve a new game as well, you know?
I agree. I agree. And I think if you're going to do the remake, well, you have 5 and 6. 6 will be the most interesting that they do, I think, because like depending on how they handle 5, 6 was just I mean, we played it and we had fun playing it, but it's goofy as hell. It's not a horror game. It's just a goofy.
Well, it is. It's just not a scary game, right? Because it's still horror based.
Horror elements,
Yeah.
but the whole game, it doesn't take itself seriously. Which I mean, I don't mind that. Like you and I were just talking about. Like I don't mind when a game doesn't take itself seriously. I have a lot of fun with that. I love B horror. But if you're coming from a game where it's like, you know, you look at the roots of, you know, Resident Evil 1 and 2, those games were legitimately scary. And then you go and you hop, skip, and jump to 6, and, you know, you have the snowmobiles, you know, hand holding snowmobiles where you're yelling at your partner because I kept dying because someone missed a QTE.
Right.
You know, just things. It's just, I mean, I'm glad they didn't bring back the QTEs. Thank God. That I could not stand that shit in horror. I like to put my controller down. God damn it.
I think it's certainly possible that there could be like 2 forks. So one like Resident Evil horror, as in horror the genre, and then Resident Evil action.
Well, didn't they do like the Revelation series? Like they could do something like that with like the mainstay one being more like horror, like, you know, very like heavy on the horror and leaning more into that, and then they can have their, you know, the spin-off games like Revelations. I know what people like Revelations a lot. I've never played any of them.
Well, there are a lot of studios that are already looking at games somewhat like that. Like, despite my dislike for them, Ubisoft are kind of doing that with the Assassin's Creed series by the sounds of things. So they've got the mainline series, which is going to be kind of like your Valhallas and stuff, and then you'll have like your side projects, which lean into the more old school, like the first 3 games and things like that, and are more on the Assassin's things, like Mirage that's coming out, for example. Mirage isn't supposed to be classed as the next thing from Valhalla. It's supposed to be just another Assassin's Creed game rather than in the mainline series. So, you know, you got Ubisoft doing it. I think Squeenix could potentially be doing it. They've just done the Final Fantasy 16. They kind of did
it with Stranger in Paradise, which I really did not like. But they kind of did it with that, where it was more like that action heavy, like very, you know, who did it? Who worked on that? Same people who did Neo, Team Ninja.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah, and I mean, that's up for debate how well that did. I never really looked into it. I did not enjoy it, but there is it is a good tactic.
Squeenix doesn't have a problem with running 2 types of games from its mainline. I mean, they've been doing it with Final Fantasy, right? They've been doing a sequel to the one game, which just goes in that direction.
Well, what I was going to say is, because obviously 16 is substantially more action orientated. The combat is more akin to like your Devil May Cries and things like that. So now they've had this game that's sold pretty well, and it's in their mainline series. So now they've got to go, well, do we stick with this new format that we wanted to try because we think it'll be more popular? And it appears that it generally is on the commercial side of things. So then do they make old school like Final Fantasies, or do they put that into a different IP? Like you got your Octopath
They would
Traveler
have to probably do a different IP, because I feel like these days, I mean, even like leading up, because I remember we were having that discussion about like, you know, what the difference between like a JRPG is and so on, and there's certain elements that line up with that. And one I would always like historically before, when I was younger, would associate with the JRPG would be turn-based,
right?
And that's something, elements like that, gameplay elements like that, they're not appealing to a mass audience. Whereas something like Devil May Cry, Devil May Cry more as format or gameplay, in Final Fantasy 16 did, and it clearly shows in the numbers.
Yeah, because
people they really revealed, you know, a turn-based, you know, it wouldn't have sold as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. So moving on then, Armored Core gameplay. Did we see?
I still haven't seen that, and I'm very excited.
So
please tell me.
Been given out to a load of reviewers and content creators, and it's kind of odd because they've been giving it to, it's odd in one way and not in another. So they've been giving previews to Dark Souls creators. So it's like, oh, you're FromSoft fans, play our new FromSoft game. But of course, Armored Core is nothing like Dark Souls, and that's been confirmed by all these people that have been playing it. They're like, oh yeah, it's more akin to the actual Armored Core games. They haven't made Armored Core more Dark Soulsy. They've just made it more Armored Core, but in newer, shinier engines and whatnot. And everyone that is an Armored Core fan is like, yeah, this looks great. More Armored Core, sick. I want to, spend 2 hours painting my mech and then kill a dude in 2 seconds and then spend another 2 hours tweaking settings and whatnot. But the gameplay, I think, does look really, really, really good. I've seen a few people remarking that it's a bit bland looking, but it's like, well, yeah, you're in a dystopian corporate-led planet place that's basically being fought over for resources. It's not exactly going to look all prim and proper kind of thing, like you're in giant factories and stuff like that. But personally, I've been seeing the gameplay and have been quite impressed.
It looks really, really good. I'm gonna have to sit down and watch the gameplay by myself, like after the podcast, just so I can really like take it in. But from what you're showing on the screen, it looks badass, dude.
So this video is the official gameplay that they released, and then there's obviously creative videos out there as well. So if you've got, like, obviously I know Vati said he played it, he did a video talking about it, and then had to make mocks because he couldn't put his own footage up. I assume he's going to come out with his own video where he can actually show stuff rather than B-roll.
Oh, it's Anthem!
It's Anthem? Yes, they're in mechs.
You bastard!
Except choices mean things.
Don't put that out there. We don't want this to turn out like Anthem.
Anthem makes me feel sad because Anthem had so many things about it that was really cool, and then there was so much about it that was
like
stupid.
the trailer. And
like the gameplay was fine. The gameplay mechanics were what were bad. Like the star power and things like that didn't make sense because it was like, oh, you can have all these affixes on your weapons, but it doesn't matter because the star power on this gun is bigger, and that's what scales the damage.
EA was attached to Anthem though, right?
Yeah, EA.
Yeah, we don't have EA to worry about here.
Yeah, so this is just.
But that's good. FromSoft, I mean, historically has. I think their first games weren't the greatest, but have always released quality, so I don't think we have to worry about it being Anthem. God damn it!
No, definitely
no,
not.
it was just he was flying through the air like in Anthem. The camera
no, it does
position.
look like Anthem. I could see why you say that.
I assume
it looks so fun.
I assume the reason FromSoft have given it to FromSoft creators because they have a relationship with them.
Yeah,
is this form of trust, right?
Yeah, so as I said, it's kind of weird because they've given it to people that don't really play this game, so it could, with some creators who are probably less on it, backfire, and they could just end up shitting over it, going, oh, this isn't a Souls game, kind of thing. But on the other hand, they've got this established audience who love FromSoft games, or at least from the past 10 years, which have all been Soulsborne.
Well, this isn't the first Armored Core either.
No,
that's
what's
so.
The last
so there
decade.
is going to be a fan base that there is like a. The demographic that's never even played it.
Yeah, but they've got to find those people, and they've got to vet those people, and they've got to build up some kind of relationship with them.
Sending it to Souls content creators is a good move on their parts. Those are the people that are going to want to. You're going to want to bring them in. They're already
There's
like
definitely goodwill from those creators.
Yeah.
You build that up, right?
Yeah, and also and the people who are like really into From Software, in my experience, they're die hard. Like they like die on that sword. For From Software, and there's for good reason. They're great games.
The area where it could potentially backfire is obviously the last decade has been Soulsborne. It's been Souls likes and things like that. Armored Core hasn't been around, so yes, there is an audience, but it's a niche and aging, dying breed audience basically, because it's us, people our age and things like that. But then you've got this audience who follow creators because they play Soulsborne content, and then this creator is suddenly going, I'm in a mech and I fly around and the missions are 90 seconds sometimes and things like that, and then these people are going to be like, you what? kind of thing. So it could be something that, as I said,
I'm just
potentially
really
backfires.
excited to see. Like, I'm really excited to see this because like I'm such a sucker for mechs. Like growing up, I love mech animes and shit, and I'm glad to see something like Armored Core coming out. Like to see like it's just like it's like this weird like archaic, like it's kind of like not post-apocalyptic, I guess post-apocalyptic kind of style. It's like we've been seeing a lot of like cyberpunky games lately, and it's kind of nice to see something that kind of like throw back to like more mechs. I'm excited. It looks cool, dude.
It's something I'll definitely be checking out. Like, I'm not a huge like mech fan. Like, I barely played any mech games. I barely watch anything to do with mechs.
I
but
don't
it
think I
does
played
look
too many
fun.
mech games myself either. I just really like the concept of mechs.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there's a lot of customization, as you can see on screen now. You, like I said, you spend 2 hours just trying to tweak your mech, and then you do a 90-second mission, and then spend another 2 hours tweaking your mech.
Peachy.
Yeah, get to tweak your bits.
Tweak your
exactly
mech,
how you want
Peachy.
them. Do you reckon
Get
you'll
my
be?
Mac.
Do you reckon you'll be playing it, Peachy? And he's gone. For those listening on audio only, Peachy has left. He's no longer here. So yes.
No, it looks cool. Like I love the customization, but it just like I don't know what it is. Like for some, like because it looks so dirty too at the same time. Like I'm such an aesthetic bitch. It just looks up. See, he went to get us a Gundam. I appreciate that.
It's not built yet.
You don't forget to tweak your mechs.
I will be tweaking my mech. I got a lot to paint. I can't get to mechs just yet.
So much.
But this game does look cool, and I'll probably be
so
like,
good. I love how dirty.
I
I was just telling Brian, I love how dirty it looks. So we've been seeing such shiny, like cyberpunky game. I mean, those aren't really like they kind of look kind of grimy too, but something about like how grimy this game looks.
Very industrial.
Armored Core has always been a bit grim. Like,
Yeah.
If you look at like like Gundams, they're very shiny and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I do love me some Gundam.
Like Gundam's like, here's the aesthetic.
They're so colorful. They're candy coated.
Armored Core can be a bit more. This is more practical. This is a robot that you're controlling and things like that.
Even though it's not, but they're trying to. It's like grounding, like what Star Wars did with all the 70s tinfoil stuff. They were like, oh, this is dirty and being used. And
Mm-hmm.
It does grab me personally more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm speaking for purely from aesthetics here when I'm mentioning, obviously, because I, like we're always just gonna like judge from what we're being shown, and I don't know, just like I see dirty mechs.
It definitely has
this
that more
candy coated bullshit. No M&Ms here.
Yeah, albeit sci-fi, it definitely has a bit more reality to it. So yeah, it definitely looks cool. As the next topic, something we've discussed on the podcast previously, and it's about Dolphin. Did you hear about Dolphin?
Yes.
I read about it on the agenda, but they went down as we suspected. I mean, big surprise there.
Yeah, so Steam and Nintendo had an agreement, and I can't remember the exacts, but basically Dolphin had to do something very, very specific for it to be allowed on Steam. Dolphin haven't done whatever that specific thing was, and thus it's not allowed on Steam. Nintendo haven't actually gone after Dolphin, though. They haven't tried to like litigate them or anything like that. I think Dolphin basically headed them off before they could and was like, here's some legislation that says that you can't do this, and here's some more legislation that says because this software is used for other things that isn't to do with emulation, because their software has multiple uses in different ways, that it's also protected by these other stuff that it does. And the Nintendo were just like, fine, and then just strolled off. At least you're not going on Steam, fuck you, and then just pissed off. So yeah, so Dolphin is, as predicted, pooped on by Nintendo essentially.
I mean, it's the Dolphin is still going to exist though on its own like websites, right?
Yeah. It's just not allowed on Steam, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense though, because I mean, you're distributing like essentially like hardware, software, or whatever for another system. That just seemed that sketch.
Yeah, well, I think it was more of a case of Steam just couldn't be asked with Nintendo, like Steam apps.
Oh no,
Valve.
I think Steam like being like, yeah, we'll take it down, fuck it. I don't think anyone wants to be asked with a fucking like Nintendo. Just like, oh shit, they're pissed.
It is a little disappointing though.
Well,
it is, but I mean, it kind of felt weird to see it on Steam, to be honest. Like ROMs always felt like, or like emulators on ROMs, that always just felt like such like an underground, like thing. Like you could like seen it being like widely distributed like that. You know what I mean? Like you always had to look for an emulator.
Maybe what Nintendo's going to do is actually protect their old games and make them available. Oh, they're not.
If they did that, there would be no need for things like Dolphin. Like, I mean, the amount of games that I know, the amount of games. So, like, I mean, I like to support personally things that I like. So, like, with Super Mario RPG coming out, I've already pre-ordered it, even though I know people always poo-poo on pre-orders. If I'm gonna buy it anyway, I'm gonna pre-order it. But so if Nintendo were to release some of their older games that clearly people have no access to anymore, that they need to use emulators, they wouldn't have to worry about this type of shit. But there's so many IPs that are just essentially abandoned.
Yeah,
because they don't want to.
They don't want to. I know. It's like, and whose fault is that, Nintendo?
Yeah, Nintendo have always had weird practices. Like, it's obviously predominantly Nintendo of Japan, and they've obviously got a different work ethic. They still don't understand content creation and things like that, and that's why people get DMCA'd and shit all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's
at least
case...
they didn't DMCA this time. That's something.
That's
good. I think they actually wanted to, but
they couldn't because it was.
You didn't do the worst.
So Steam basically, again, likewise headed off Nintendo and was like, listen, if they do this, this, and this and make these changes, it's perfectly legal, piss off. And then, like I said, Dolphin just didn't manage to make whatever tweaks they needed to make to the software. So Steam had essentially greenlit it, but it was with stipulations. So. So they did
I want to know if those stipulations that they didn't meet it because they didn't have time or manpower to do it, or because they were like, no, fuck you, we don't have to do this.
Let's see if I can find out. But yeah, off the...
That's a big difference there, you know what I mean?
In my chat, DMCA stands for Dick Move Confirmed Asshole. Well done.
Nice.
I like that. I'm stealing that.
I look for that, do you want to talk about the Project Q?
The plastic tap from fucking Wish.com that they've strapped a tablet that they've got a overabundant stock of.
Oh my god.
I couldn't believe it. I posted a picture in
For a second, I thought you took one apart, and I was like, "What the fuck? How did he get that?" I was so confused when I first saw it. But oh god, this fucking photo, man.
There is nothing. It is a plastic case that holds a tablet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which actually means two things.
Mm-hmm.
Is one, I was right. They are just trying to shift some stock they've got. And two, this could be used to play away from your console. Because it's just Android tech. It's just an Android tablet.
But they've done it so it only works with the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
On your own network.
Even worse than the original concept that we thought it was. It's
I've actually got a statement.
How much are you charging for this Wish.com tablet and plastic combination?
You know the sickest part about it though, Peachy? People will buy it.
Yeah, it's rumored that it's going to be about $300 as well, which is insane to me. If it was $100, I'd get it.
What kind of Snapdragon are we talking in this tablet?
I would hope for something from this year.
Yeah, no. They already
way.
have those tablets made. That's why it looks like this.
Yeah, true. I have a statement from Dolphin, by the way, that I can read out.
Oh. Yep.
It's a wee bit lengthy, so forgive me. In fact, I can also bring it up on the screen. So, this is according to Dolphin. So, what actually happened? First things first, Nintendo did not send Valve or Dolphin a Digital Millennium Copyright Act, aka DMCA section, blah, blah, blah. Against our Steam page, Nintendo has not taken any legal action against Dolphin Emulator or Valve. What actually happened was that Valve's legal department contacted Nintendo to inquire about the announced release of Dolphin Emulator on Steam. In reply to this, a lawyer representing Nintendo of America requested Valve prevent Dolphin from releasing on the Steam store, citing DMCA as a justification. Valve then forwarded us the statement from Nintendo's lawyers and told us that we had to come to an agreement with Nintendo in order to release on Steam. Considering the strong legal wording at the start of the document and the citation of DMCA law, we took the letter very seriously. We wanted to take some time and formulate a response. However, after being flooded with questions, we wrote a fairly frantic statement on the situation as we understood it at the time, which turned out to only fuel the fires of speculation. So after a long stay of silence, we have a difficult announcement to make. We are abandoning our efforts to release Dolphin on Steam. Valve ultimately runs the store and can set any condition they wish for software to appear on it, but given Nintendo's long-held stance on emulation, we find Valve's requirement for us to get approval from Nintendo for a Steam release to be impossible. Unfortunately, that's that, but there are some more serious matters to discuss. And then it goes on about like other things. So basically, Steam approached Nintendo and was like, yo, are you cool with this? Because we can't be asked like having a slapping fight with you kind of thing. And then Nintendo were like, DMCA! And then Steam were like, well, no, that's kind of bullshit, but we still don't want to beef with you. So then they approached Dolphin and said, if you can get like an agreement with Nintendo, we'll wash our hands of it. But of course, that was never going to happen, unfortunately. So that is kind of a bit poo of Steam. I do wish Steam was a bit more like, no, like that's not how DMCA can be used. You're literally using it wrong. So fuck you. And then just rolled with it. I was kind of hoping for the support from Steam there on that one, because I don't know, Valve as a company just feels a bit more sincere.
They deal with like so many other shit that they're like, that's a game that they don't want it. They don't want to be involved in at all. Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see where they're coming from. I agree. It would be nice if there was like a little bit more additional support, but like I think because they have so much they're managing on their platform, that's just one small, like, just to have put that much energy into like, you know, fighting to have an emulator on there, they're probably like, fuck that, it's not even worth it.
Yeah, but Gabe himself, what was that fucking game? Hatred. Gabe himself said no, that's going on the store.
Yeah,
because it's like all this stuff that's being said is absolute bullshit.
It is absolute bullshit.
Do it with this. Do it with it. I'm saying that I think Steam's looking at the bottom line here. They're not going to make enough money off the Dolphin. There's no. Well, they won't make any money off it. No. But how much money do you think they're making off Hatred? 0.0001% of their value.
That's just my theory here, is that they're just looking at it's like, this is not making it. We're not making shit off this. It's just a lot of time.
That's not why I like Steam and Valve.
I think at the end of the day, it's something we don't have all the insight into.
I'm not calling Steam good guys here on this. It's just I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
if there was a potential for them to be making a lot of money or good press off of it, because I don't even think there would be enough like press that would actually even benefit them either. Because like, how many people actually really know about Dolphin? Or I just think it's a bottom line here, that this seems like it's just not worth their time or energy or money.
I'm inclined to agree. Like, at least with the Hatred thing, there was more of a news cycle around it. Like Gaben was Gabening, as opposed to now he's not involved in this. He's probably in New Zealand having a wank or something. I don't know. But like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. It could be that they've looked at the numbers and gone, nah, it's just not worth. Just fuck it off.
Yeah,
let them fight amongst themselves.
Like, believe me, I agree. It sucks. It really does suck. But
it's not their fight as well, to be fair. It would be nice if they got involved, but it's not their fight.
And the thing is it's not like you can't still obtain the Dolphin emulator. Like, I'm pretty sure it's still gonna be on their website. And it's not like that, you know, if you've already downloaded it, if you already have it, like, you're gonna lose access to it. Nothing like that is a problem. The only thing is like it was just they're trying to push it out to a wider audience, and I don't think people were going to be looking for that, and I don't think Steam would have really. I don't really think Valve would have promoted it that much either.
I think the thing.
So I think there's really not much lost here. I'm being fair, there's not much lost here. If you haven't gone out and sought out the
if it was on Steam, it would semi-legitimize emulation as an actual platform. I'm just deeply disappointed with Steam, because this is one thing that I can see Steam fighting for, because they don't Steam don't care about money that much. If they did, they'd make Half-Life 3. They just shit one out.
I think there's just also so much I think with the legalities around emulation, like it's really I don't even really understand sometimes, just the laws around that. I remember growing up, it was always, like I said, it felt like kind of a shady thing to do. And I remember being told by my brothers growing up, because I used to, I learned about emulation. I think Chrono Trigger was the first time I ever emulated a game. I own it. Nintendo, don't come after me. I think that was the game and he told us that we weren't allowed to we couldn't tell anybody. It was a super shady thing.
ROMs are shady. ROMs of existing IPs are shady, even though they're fucking abandoned. You can't get them anywhere. They are shady.
There's a way that developers or like Nintendo in particular, I guess in this case, they could push out or sell ROMs for emulators. Is that, do you think that's like something
Yeah,
that they
so homebrew is what you're talking about. Yeah, homebrew in anything that has a very solid emulator, very strong.
Mhm.
And pushing that out to a lot of people gives people who make homebrew an audience.
I think
We
what
get new
Yeah.
games.
I think Paul
I mean,
was actually saying,
I
like, what
could
if
see that.
Nintendo
I
distributed the
could see
ROMs?
that argument.
Oh, right. Yeah,
I don't think
that's
because
true.
Nintendo they want to have like so much control over their own IPs. I don't see them ever wanting to ever bending but for that.
Hmm.
So, but I don't know. I'm all over the place on this because I
think-
see both sides, like where you're coming from, Peachy, but I could see the business end with Steam here, where it's like
I
it
think
would
Just
it sucks.
expect better, that's all.
Yeah, I think at
No,
the end
no,
of
I
the
get
day,
it. I get it. I get it.
at the end of the day, I think it's just a case of it's not Steam's fight, and then they've got no obligation to fight it. Again, it would have been nice, but at the end of the day, it's between Dolphin and Nintendo.
Well,
And
yeah, I'm realizing now this isn't Steam's fight, but previously I would have thought this is Steam's fight.
again, I would like them to be involved because
This
It's
previously
nice.
I'd think,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Valve.
that's Steam's fight, Valve's fight. Sorry,
Mhm.
and now I'm like, oh, like it's disenfranchised by. Oh, they're just gonna do that now. Okay.
Yeah.
I still think they're
it
better
would be
than
nice.
most digital
Oh, yeah,
distributors out
100%.
there, but still.
Especially,
Their creative
especially when you
process is
really
crazy
look
as
at
well.
it. I mean, obviously, Dolphin would be. It's like that's GameCube and Nintendo 64, if I remember correctly. So those aren't like. There's a lot of people who never had like in support of like having it accessible to more people. There's a lot of people who never really had Nintendo systems like growing up. They maybe started on like PlayStation and never got to experience a lot of those games, and having it, having the capability of like learning about emulation through Steam for a younger audience would have been kind of cool. But
Yeah, it is what it is, though.
it is what it is.
What it is shit.
G Willikers goofy bullshit.
Gee willikers.
So, Project Q. Is there any more really to say about it other than it's
I mean, it
not
looks
$300
exactly.
worth?
No, it is not.
It's basically just I think they just stretched out a PS5 controller
Yeah.
and slapped on a shitty Wish.com.
You could probably do
tablet.
what they're doing with a fucking Arduino.
You probably
3D,
could build one.
get on Etsy, get a 3D printer, Arduino
probably
fucking
build it.
maker, done.
You don't even need to do that. You can just get a controller for your phone.
Yeah.
For like
Yeah,
$50.
I have one of those.
And then, yeah, you've got essentially the same thing, except it can stream cloud services as well as, like...
Wow,
and or
so
you can get, like,
exciting.
the PlayStation Now, which is a Steam Link box, but it's for PlayStation. And you can play PS Vita games in it. It's got a slot for PS Vita games.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I've got one.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I got it for like
didn't know
60
that.
quid a
That's
couple of
dope.
years ago. But yeah, PlayStation Now, for those that don't know, it was a cloud service, or is a cloud service, that does retro games, or it did retro games. I think they've kind of built that into the whatever the format is for the PlayStation Plus.
So it was
Premium
an
Pro
emulated Vita
version.
rather than the hardware in the box.
Yeah, it was basically a Steam Link, but for PlayStation. Moving on then, Mortal Kombat 1, they showed us some shiny things.
There are some nice shiny things.
A lot of people...
No, there aren't.
there are
That's not my
Fucking
point.
cameo characters. Who gives a shit?
quite a lot of people,
How
actually.
dare you insult?
Well,
the
I'm
boy.
sorry that nobody has any taste.
I
I mean, Omniman is kind of
am
cool,
fine
man.
with having terrible taste.
I think Omniman getting added is actually really cool. I also like what they've done with him because obviously everyone else has a real life actor to associate with it, whereas Omniman is an animation, and they've actually made like a really cool, realistic looking bloke as Omniman. I think they've done it really well.
Mhm.
But yeah, so the announcement is we got confirmation Omniman from Invincible, Homelander from The Boys, and I want to
The
say someone
Boys.
else. There was someone else, but I've forgotten. Did I write it down in the doc? Peacemaker from DC Comics, and it's using John Cena.
Oh, J.K.
As
It'll
Simmons.
just
the
be an
model.
invisible sprite. You won't be able to see it.
Invisible?
Whatever.
This is John Cena.
Oh.
God damn it.
It looks like
you.
I think you're having
That's my
disconnection.
joke for the podcast.
I think you're having
I hate
disconnection
you right
problems,
now.
Peachy. Are you still there? I'm just gonna cut off the feed. But yeah, I thought it was like cool. Obviously, I'm not a huge like I'm gonna play every single Mortal Kombat fan or anything like that. I'll probably get around to playing Mortal Kombat 1 eventually. They showed a bunch of like story-based trailers and stuff like that. But yeah, we're gonna get some The Boys.
I played the last one, and I still can't justify paying a full price for a fighting game because I suck so bad at them.
Yeah,
Here are the
that's fine.
token current cameos we're gonna have. Oh, great! That's news. That's what I care about.
I mean, if you were playing a game like Mortal Kombat as a beat 'em up player, then having a new character with completely fresh movesets and things like that would be quite appealing to you.
But that's not why people are excited. They're excited because it's fucking Homelander. That's
Well, yeah.
And John
And let
Cena.
people be excited about that. Stop
it's
being
the
a grumpy bastard.
low-hanging fruit hype.
People like things, Peachy.
Yeah.
No, like good things.
Go
not
paint
like
some
little
figures,
piecemeal
bitch.
pieces of shit. You know that trailer with all the fucking like finishing moves and stuff?
Yeah.
Now that's fucking content. This is just, you know, when they put like Guile's face on a rubber duck and sell it to you for 25 quid. That's what this is.
I
Who
mean,
gives a shit?
I don't think that is what it is. And obviously, like, it doesn't mean anything to you, but people are excited about it. So let them, is what I'm going to say.
Warhammer talk about
Have you,
Warhammer's good. I like Warhammer. That's cool. What's that shit on Warhammer?
have you two heard about
I would be
GLORBO?
annoyed if they put Homelander in Warhammer, by the way, for the record.
You would?
Yeah. What the fuck's this prick doing in here?
Because you don't want to paint him?
You haven't got Homelander Blue. Is that what it is?
I have to buy more paint.
But yeah, have you two heard of GLORBO? Yes, no? GLORBO?
He's fighting his Homelander Blue.
Yeah, he's like, I've got Cobalt Blue. Yeah, have you heard of GLORBO, Pope?
Glorbo!
Have you
Oh
heard
my
of GLORBO?
God.
No.
No. So, for those not familiar, there are a number of...
I really don't want to break it.
Oh, have you not opened it yet? You don't have to pop the seal.
No, I mean Globo.
GLORBO.
Like,
Well, this
it's
will
great.
feed it. This
Globo
will
is-
add to it because of how it's all gone down, if anything.
Explain it as if you were on Reddit. Explain it like Pulp doesn't know what Globo is. Explain it as if you were explaining it on Reddit to Pulp, and then tell the truth.
I don't know what that means because I don't use
Okay,
Reddit
so
regularly.
Globo, there's a boss in Destiny.
Yeah.
Is it Destiny?
That was the
Destiny 2.
second one. It started with Warcraft.
It was Warcraft was the first one.
Mhm.
So there's a boss in Destiny, and people cannot beat Globo. So people all across Reddit have been sharing different tactics and stuff so they can defeat Globo. And you see a ton of articles going up about who is Globo, and here's the best way to defeat Globo. And they're all written by AI because
Oh my
Globo
God. That's what it
isn't
is?
Yeah,
real.
but the fun thing is Globo was made up.
Globo is completely made up.
Some Redditors
That's
were like,
hilarious.
"This is going to be a giggle." So there's a number of news
So
publications
this
that
is
use
just Reddit
AI
just trying to take the piss out of everybody?
out of AI publications. So
Out
there's
of AI,
there's a
okay.
number of publications that use AI to write their articles, and they're always under like a real person's name, so you're not supposed to know they're AI. So someone on Reddit was like, "This will be a giggle," and started writing about a fictional boss in WoW called GLORBO, or a mechanic
That's
called
hilarious.
GLORBO, and they like literally just made a big article with bullshit, and loads of people fed into it, and then a AI publication picked it up and wrote an article
Mhm.
about this new boss called GLORBO in World of Warcraft, which obviously isn't real. So loads of people made fun of it, and then someone else did it again, but for Destiny 2. And this time, even more AI publications started doing it. One AI publication did 2 articles about it, about this fake GLORBO boss or mechanic or whatever. Like people have been
Yeah, I'm
writing
looking
different
at the
articles. And yeah, it's completely made up, and it's just
I just
basically
found
making fun of them.
Also,
I'm looking
singular
at the Reddit right now.
articles have been written by different names.
hilarious.
But they're the same article across
That's-
different publications.
That's probably one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
The thing is, these sites aren't calling out that they're using this stuff because no one would fucking read it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then they're getting caught out. And I think Globo is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it's definitely been amusing.
I'm a big fan of GLORBO now.
GLORBO, all hail GLORBO. It's like
All
that's,
hail
GLORBO.
for the listeners and viewers at home. The document, the agenda is literally all hail GLORBO. That's all I put for the subject. So that's all it says. So we're gonna go take a quick break. Go get yourselves a drink, stretch your legs, rest your eyes, stare out a window for a bit, and then come back and we will talk about some more video games and other things. So.
Yeah, video games.
Video games. So, welcome back to part 2, the second half of the fully rendered podcast. We've just been talking about charting during the break. It was fantastic. So, moving on to the next subject.
And I'm 14 years old and I laugh at it.
You should. It's a funny thing. We all poop or shart occasionally.
Let's go on. Let's continue. Sorry, my bad.
But yeah, so this is more of just an update on the Microsoft versus FTC versus CMA thing. Essentially, Microsoft were being blocked, or was going to be blocked by the FTC. The FTC was like, okay, we need to do an injunction, and then the judge that was overseeing it was like, you've not brought enough like evidence to the table to show this is anti-consumer, so you don't get your injunction, which meant that outside of the CMA, there was no one blocking the deal anymore. So Microsoft are like, yo, CMA, do you want to rethink this? Like, we'll make some concessions for you based on like your concerns about cloud gaming. And the CMA have basically said, oh, okay, well, we said we weren't going to look at it, but okay, sure, we'll look at it. In that time, the deal deadline has technically passed. The ABK, Activision Blizzard King, have agreed with Microsoft Blizzard that they're happy to postpone the deadline to just get shit sorted with the CMA. But they're pretty sure it's going to go through now. Probably the day the CMA says, yeah, we're going to let it go through, you probably find either the next day or the same day, Microsoft will say the deal's gone. It's now in place, kind of thing.
The reason they're doing this with the $3 billion fee is because Microsoft won't just give them $3 billion. They'll go to court and go, well, we couldn't because of these things, and it'll just get all skewy in legal stuff, and it'll end up costing more than $3 billion. So
Yeah, probably.
everyone's like, you know what? Let's just wait.
Plus, it shows how confident they are that they're going to win at the end of the day. They're just like, yeah, we'll wait a couple of more weeks, kind of thing. I think it's supposed to be by end of August, the new deadline. So it's probably going to be in the next couple of weeks. We'll hear back from the CMA, and they'll go, yeah, we'll let it go through. Thanks, bye. Please don't hate us. Please stop sending us death threats, gamers, kind of thing.
That same voice.
Something that I imagine is probably going to piss off Poochie a wee bit is Bobby Kotick. He has said this in the past, but he's reiterated it. He has said that I'm going to stay on for as long as Microsoft wants me, which is very vague, because at the end of the day, it could mean that Microsoft go, yeah, we don't want you, thanks, kind of thing. But at the same time, it also somewhat alludes that he might still have some kind of position and be around after the merger.
So,
sucks dick.
no. Of course he said that. Of course he's the narcissistic fucking nightmare prince has said that. What's he gonna go? Oh yeah, no, I'll just give it up. So he gives up his fucking billions in his payoff. No, of course he says that. And no, he won't stick around. He's just saying that just to reiterate, no, I'm not going. Like, no.
Yeah. Hopefully he does
there
go.
is zero chance he stays around.
I reckon he will for like a month or two, because obviously.
Oh yeah, probably like handover stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Unless Microsoft are like, no, just get the fuck out of here. The longer you're here,
you're a
the more
brand
we lose.
risk. Yeah, like just get out of here, kind of thing. Hopefully so.
I feel like I need to admit something. My guilt.
Yes.
I played an Activision game.
Oh no.
Tony Hawk's. I kind of forgot it was Activision.
That's actually a good one, though. I'll excuse you.
Yeah, it is good because I mean I've got it now, so I played it. Yeah, I forgot that it was Activision.
We forgive you.
At the time of the remaster, I think Vicarious Visions were contracted, but not actually part of Blizzard at the time. So they now, or Activision now owns the IP, but at the time of it was being made, I don't think they did.
I started the game and it said Activision. I went, oh, for fuck's sake, of course it is.
Yeah, because Vicarious Visions got bought and brought in to do Diablo 2 Resurrected. So Blizzard were like, you know what, you did really great with this. We're just going to buy you, and ended up buying Vicarious Visions, which are now called Blizzard Albany, I believe.
Yeah, but I am purposely boycotting all Activision games, and it came up on my screen. I was like,
except Tony Hawk, apparently.
apparently, apart from Tony Hawk.
I mean, dude, Tony Hawk is fun as fuck.
Yeah, it's
really good.
It sucks.
Just because it's an Activision Blizzard. No, I get it. Like, I still boycott Ubisoft games. I boycott Blizzard for an entire year. So I can understand how, like, you want to stick to your convictions, and then something surprises you, and you're like, oh, fuck, kind of thing. Like, at the end of the day, it's self-imposed.
You just keep it to yourself sometimes. And just
I could keep it to myself, but I have this weird thing in my brain that is like
called the conscience.
Ethical. It's in there somewhere. It's in there somewhere.
You just have to hide in your shame like everyone else.
I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of the time, it's...
I know about that. I was raised Catholic.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You should know better.
I know how to do that.
You know how to do that.
But yeah, I think
I'm too honest for my good.
I think at the end of the day, it's a self-imposed thing. Like, you don't expect anyone else to boycott it. Like, I don't.
I get that.
So I think
it is wildly hypocritical of me to be like, oh, fuck Activision, I'm boycotting them, and then sit down and enjoy. I'm not saying I'm enjoying it. I'm just saying it would be hypocritical to enjoy it.
I mean, you can still enjoy the things that you want to boycott.
I don't want to enjoy it so much, Brian. It's so good.
Well, it's not necessarily the product that you're boycotting, is it? It's the people that make it or benefit from it. Yeah. From your purchase. Did you pay for it?
I have given Activision 14 of my hard-earned pounds.
Bastard.
And it hurts. And it hurts.
Nah, I'm sure your community are definitely
it made it really good.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on. So we alluded to this. In fact, no. Before we go in, Warhammer. Do you have any Warhammer updates?
Not much has happened since I've last spoken about Warhammer. We had a data card errata, which wasn't really a bug, a nerf fix, or buffs or anything like that. It was more bug fixing with things that were left off the cards. Yeah, there are some armies that have been buffed and nerfed from it because they've just basically what's written down, they missed out some keywords, and things have keywords that they shouldn't have and things like that. The only interesting thing is probably pre-orders for Warcry have gone up, and Warcry is like its self-contained boxed game. It's based on Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And the minis look really cool, but I'm getting bored of saying that now because every new mini that Games Workshop release is fucking wonderful. But it looks pretty cool. There is another thing that people are complaining about, which is in the 40k app, it's got like indexes and all that stuff and points. But there's also, they've got the Battle Forge access where you can build your armies.
Right.
And that's being paywalled to Warhammer Plus now, which is where they do their TV stuff. And you can also get all copies of White Dwarf competitions and, pointless shit like that. But they are paywalling that where you can only get the army builder on the app if you're subscribed to Warhammer Plus, which isn't the cheapest for the value they're giving you. It's like TV, Warhammer TV, but they've got some good animations on them. They do painting stuff. Like it's not vapid, but it's not like Netflix subscription.
Right.
So this is kind of a value thing, but now you can only get it, and I can understand why people are annoyed. Like I do have Warhammer Plus with the TV stuff, but I can understand why people are like, why can't I just have my army builder? You've given us all the points for free.
Right.
And I can understand that because they've given all the information is out there, and you can make your army for free now, which has never happened before. But having it on the app without having to do math and just clicking buttons is really, really nice.
Right.
And it's paywall, which is it's like it's not scummy, but yeah, you can only get it if you pay their subscription for Plus now.
Right.
Which is a little bit. Oh, and also the new warehouse stuff where, all the problems I was talking about with supply and stuff. They're actually moving everything to new warehouses now. So there's probably going to be slowdown on pre-orders. But hopefully after that, all their problems will be fixed.
Hopefully so. And if not, I'll just go down the roads to the Warhammer world.
Yeah, that's where I got my last pre-order from. So I actually got the starter set for the new.
Go to my brother-in-law, get his discount because he works there, and then I can be like, oh, thanks for the minis, mate. Plus, apparently, there's like headquarter specific stuff that you can't buy unless it's through a reseller. So someone who's bought it from the headquarters and then resold it. So apparently that's something that I could benefit from. I don't obviously paint minis, but if I did, it's a handy resource to have.
You should. It's awesome.
If only. Dude, I have too many hobbies.
My hands shake too much for stuff like that.
I did like a couple of Warhammer things back in the day, Dark Elves and like Airfix stuff when I was a kid. Like my old man would occasionally come back and be like, yeah, you can paint a plane kind of thing, and I'll just do that. But it's not something that I've done for probably a couple of decades now at this point. But it is something I would like to do. Maybe it's just a pastime, but I've got like music production, content creation, gaming, loads of stuff like anime, all of that. I just don't have the time for it at the moment. If I wasn't working full time, I'd go ham kind of thing. If I was a full-time creator, then sure. But
it did overtake my hobby, my other hobbies.
I can imagine.
It did. I mean, this never used to be completely mini stuff.
yeah 100%.
And I certainly haven't bought a brand new giant paint rack that's going to cover this entire back wall with paint and stuff. I certainly haven't done that, and that's why nothing is happening. Nothing is happening tomorrow. Right,
I see. That now makes more sense. Did you hear the sprinkling of news about the Warhammer MMO?
It's
like
so
the interview with the
my
director.
area is 40k, and this is like Sigmar stuff, which is the fantasy line stuff. So my ears aren't as excited.
Because like the interview that I saw, whatever his name is from Jackery Games or whatever it was called, Jackalyptic, I think it's called.
I didn't actually say. I just heard it.
Yeah.
I'm not on X at the moment. Sorry, Twitter. Seth, whatever it's fucking called.
Yeah, just call it Twitter. Just dead name it. Just dead name it. It's fine. We'll show Elon what it's like to dead name.
I saw that meme and I was like, oh no.
I thought it was hilarious. I retweeted it straight away. But yeah, so what the director was saying. So this is a director who has worked on other MMOs in the past. He worked on Neverwinter, which was a fun MMO. It had its problems mostly with monetization, but like gameplay wise, it was pretty fun. They worked on, I think there was a DC MMO where it was like superhero or something. He worked on that one. There's a couple of others, not blockbuster huge MMOs that did well or really well, like some of the big ones like ESO, WoW, etc. But he's worked on MMOs that have established a player base and continued for a reasonable amount of time. So someone with experience. But in the interview, he was like hella vague. So they were like, okay, so what kind of Warhammer is it? And he was like, I'm not going to tell you. It was just like, why not? Just tell us if it's fantasy or 4K. And they were like, oh, we haven't actually decided yet. Well, we just haven't announced it, so I can't tell you. And then that was it.
I think I just assumed it was fantasy.
Yeah, I think because people are referring to it as Warhammer, because we don't have those details, it's, reasonable to just go, oh, so it's fantasy, because that's Warhammer technically. But we don't actually know if it's going to be 40K or not. I didn't know if you were like hardcore 40K or if you did dabble a little bit in your fantasy.
Oh, I got some fantasy stuff. I don't hate fantasy or anything. I'm just, 40K is what just grabs me.
Yeah, no, that's fair play.
And now apparently I can't play an MMO again. I'm past my MMO days. I can't.
Yeah,
I can feel that.
He said that he was going to try and lean towards more action-orientated combat, so more like your New World kind of combat, things like that, as opposed to your tab targeting. He says that he's done all of that obviously in the past. Like Neverwinter had kind of a semi-action on or skill shot system, but it was mostly tab targeting. But they're hopefully going to make a really cool MMO. Like when I see an MMO, I don't necessarily look at it and go, "This is going to be my hobby," and then no life in MMO anymore. I'll play it for a few weeks, probably get through the campaign, do whatever end game content there is. I'll treat it like a live service game in a lot of ways, and then once I've completed it, if it keeps me playing for a bit, I'll jump in a couple of times a week. If not, I'll be like, okay, I had fun. Like, especially if it's a box priced one or something like that. It's like, yeah, I got my 100 hours worth, and then I move on. But of course, I know there are a lot of people who they see an MMO, it's being announced, and they're like, ooh, I'm going to get a new game that made me feel like Warcraft did when I was a child. They obviously don't get that the being the child bit was the bit that makes that quite important. But yeah, so
I'm guessing that it's going to be fantasy because most MMOs are fantasy based.
that's very true. That's very true. I would like to see something that is 40k, not just because it would be different, but because of the lore and the way that's done. Like, it's gothic, but it's sci-fi. And we don't have a lot of sci-fi MMOs. Like, the last good one that I enjoyed.
It is space fantasy, so...
Yeah. Like, the last...
There's a difference.
Like, MMO that I really enjoyed.
That was space fantasy rather than sci-fi, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's magic.
It's more space fantasy, for sure.
100%. But, yeah, the last sci-fi adjacent MMO I played was... I forgot what it's called. It was by Wildcard. It was the game where it was like, it's for hardcore gamers, and I really enjoyed it. And it was basically
and it
Firefly.
died in a month.
Oh no, it didn't die in a month. It was
No?
a year or so. Yeah.
But that's
Wildstar.
a month in MMO terms.
Wildstar,
yeah.
I
that
really
died pretty
enjoyed it.
sharpish.
It was basically...
Yeah, everyone said they liked it, but no one seemed to be playing it.
It was because they didn't realize how small the hardcore audience was. So they made an MMO that was dedicated to people who would play 40-man raids and things like that. The no-lifers. And it's like, actually, it turns out there's not that many no-lifers when you take out the casual audience. So,
yeah, you need to populate it with some more casual players that are going to drop in and out.
And that's basically why it went down. But it was a shame because it was, if you're a Firefly or Serenity fan, it was basically that, but in an MMO. Like, it was your Wild West / sci-fi kind of thing, and you had this the jovialness and the banter that you would have in the Firefly series. So it was something I really, really enjoyed. I actually liked that it was aimed at a hardcore audience, but again, because they didn't appeal at all to the casual audience, they didn't build one. They didn't have that big enough player base to survive. And then it was not Wildcard. It was Neversoft, I want to say. It's one of the big, like, we put out loads of MMOs and they're all got shitty monetization. It was like the one game that didn't have shitty monetization as well.
Yeah,
so,
there's a company that just buys MMOs and just turns them into coin farming for them.
pretty much, yeah. So yeah,
we've all played those MMOs and gone, oh.
So I would personally be looking forward to a 40k MMO if it's done well.
I think it's a great idea. I'm not really crazy about MMOs myself either. It's too much time to dedicate to it, but I think it's a great concept.
If it's 40k, I'll definitely play it.
Yeah,
I know you would.
Yeah,
but whether I would play an MMO,
check it out. I just don't. I don't like committing that much time to games. That's why like MMOs never never really that attractive to me.
Yeah, there are other games I prefer to delve into.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, like I said, I treat them more like a live service. So I'll be like, okay, here's the new content. I'll play it for a couple of weeks, and then I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll be back in 3 months when you release more content or whatever kind of thing. I don't have to do my dailies every day. I'm not about that life anymore. So,
I know some people who don't do their dailies.
Should we talk about Diablo 4?
Yes,
drama?
Brian.
Okay.
Yes, we
Let's
should
talk
talk
about
about Diablo
Diablo
4. Brian, I would love to hear about it.
So there was a wee bit of drama in the Diablo 4 community. The drama being, it spanned across a couple of things. The main thing was what I think was a communication issue rather than like just a bad move. Like, a lot of people saw it as Blizzard being malicious and trying to slow down the game so people stayed in the game longer so they could spend money on the cosmetic shop and stuff like that. But then they basically released a patch notes for season 1, so their very first major content being added to their live service game, and the patch notes were nerfs, 100% nerfs essentially. There was like a couple of buffs, but they were more of a balancing thing. So obviously everyone in the community was pissed off because the first thing they got to see was all of their characters, regardless of what you were nerfed in some way and you would slow down your gameplay. They then had like an emergency campfire chat, as they call it. So they get the devs on stream and they were like, our bad, we didn't communicate very well. Yes, these are all nerfs, but these are all nerfs because we intend on doing a bunch of buffs, but later on. And then people were like, well, you didn't explain that because that's fucking stupid to not explain that. Why can't you explain that when you do the patch notes and things like that? And they were like, yeah, no, we completely understand. That was like a stupid mistake on our part, a rookie mistake, I would say. The reason I would say it's a rookie mistake is because Path of Exile is an action RPG that is a live service and has been doing this and has solved this issue. They know how to communicate these things. They'll put the patch notes well in advance. They'll justify the patch notes. They'll say, we're making this change for this reason. This is the impact it has because we intend on doing X in the future, or because of another change further down in the patch notes, we'll balance that out, things like that. The Diablo devs didn't do that. They were just like, here's loads of nerfs, no reason why, feel upset because everything is now less powerful. They then obviously, like I said, had the campfire chat, which was like 2 days afterwards, so like an emergency chat. One of the devs, Joe Shelley, looked like he was about to die. He was just like, he was basically me last weekend and Pulp the weekend before. just basically like, oh my god, I don't want to be here. But like, they've recently done another one yesterday where they've gone, okay, here's here's the buff patch, and they've gone through all the buffs. They've done it in a format where it's like, look, we've done this well in advance of the actual patch. Here are the notes, the patch notes coming out on Wednesday, again, well in advance of the actual patch, so we can get proper feedback from it. And they've just better explained it. So you had that. Then you also had someone posted a video on Twitter where in the video they're playing with a controller, and they went to the map screen and they wanted to look at their seasonal journey, which is just a mechanic for progression. But when you open the menu with a controller on console specifically, it opens up to the use your premium battle pass button by default, rather than going to the season journey screen by default, which is where you'd want it to go. And when you press it, there's no confirmation either. It just goes, cool, it's activated. So people have bought the ultimate or deluxe editions, gotten a battle pass use for free. And some people were like, I don't want to spend it on this season, I want to spend it on the next season. For whatever reason, maybe it's time constraints, maybe they just didn't fancy the cosmetics that were in the season journey, etc., whatever. So loads of people on console were accidentally like enabling their battle pass for this season when they wanted to store it. And you had some people going, oh, it's free, why have you got beef? And it's like, it's not free. It came with the deluxe or ultimate edition that I paid extra money for to get this premium edition to it. So there was a lot of people missing out on like the understanding of that, but that was essentially it.
Right.
Blizzard then essentially got called out for dark patterns. If you're not familiar with dark patterns is where if you, on a website, for example, if you have 2 tick boxes and it says, tick this box if you want to receive free shit and all these good, beautiful things. And then there's a second box that's really, 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 really tiny. And it says, tick this box if you also don't want to get other marketing bullshit kind of thing. So like they'll hide things, and it's basically setting up an interface or a user interface in a way where it's easy to make mistakes and spend money where you don't want to spend money, or to lure you into
makes sense.
marketing that when you didn't want the marketing, stuff like that. Blizzard reacted to it very, very quickly. Within like hours, they were like, okay, we've done it, so it actually gets some confirmation now, or it doesn't default to that button. We're going to do more stuff in the future, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just another rookie mistake. Because I think this is the first... Because a lot of the Diablo team are people that haven't actually worked on previous Diablo games, nor are they people that have previously worked on live service games. For example, a lot of the people are Blizzard Albany, who are Vicarious Visions, so they worked on Diablo 2 Resurrected. This is their first live service game. Live service development is substantially different to just how you would regularly develop a game. It's basically permanent crunch from what we've read in interviews. So I think it's just a case of they're dealing with interfaces and stuff that they've not done before. They're in a development cycle that they've not done before. So they're just making loads of silly mistakes. At the same time, again, I would go, but you've got this not quite direct competitor, but this other competitor that solved these problems. Just copy them, because that's what you do. You're Blizzard. You copy and then iterate and make it better. So why can't you do that? So yeah, there was that bit of drama about Diablo 4. The latest video they did, or stream they did yesterday, was a big win. They basically said like, yeah, here's all the issues that we made with the previous announcement. This is how we're rectifying it. This is how we're going to do it in the future. Here's all the buffs and stuff that will counteract a lot of these things. And it was generally well received. It's a shame that they had to fuck up to get to that point, but nonetheless, it looks like they're kind of steering in the right direction. Or so I would say, if I didn't spend 7 hours yesterday watching the first day of Exilecon for Path of Exile 2, where they basically came out and was like, cooldowns? We don't have cooldowns in our game. For those that don't know, people complain about cooldowns in Diablo 4 because you want to use your skills as opposed to waiting for a cooldown. So Path of Exile are going to be like, yep, there's no cooldowns. I think the longest cooldown is like 4 seconds. And that's for like OP free skills that you would break the game if they were off cooldown kind of thing.
What's the fucking APM on that?
Like people get really bad repetitive strain injuries from Path of Exile because it's a lot of pianoing. Like there's potions and all sorts of stuff. Like there's a lot. Like PoE is a hardcore zoomer game as well. You're all over the place. Very highly mobile. That's another thing they announced as well. That it, well, not so much announced but displayed, that it looks like they are slowing down the gameplay a bit. There are going to be opportunities to be like the crazy zoomer build, press one button and it just deletes the screen. Congrats. But that's best in stock kind of builds and things like that, end game builds. During the leveling process, it has more of a pace akin to Diablo 4, which I know they've wanted to do for a while. They've wanted to slow it down because some people like to actually be involved in the action combat as opposed to press one button, win the game kind of thing. So yeah, some people are reacting to it like, oh, maybe it's going to be a bit too hard. They have got a demo on at Exilecon, but it's purposely tweaked to be stupidly hard so people look at all the new mechanics and stuff they've added. They have added some pretty mechanics as well. I'll just show a video. But
I want to see. I never really got into Path of Exile, but it's just such a daunting game.
I tried it. I built a pig and I uninstalled it. Never played it.
Yeah, it's definitely not a very newbie friendly
It's not for
game.
me.
Yeah, it's one of those games where if you're shown it or like follow a guide and stuff like that, you're like, oh, so this is how it works, and then you immediately like it more. But,
yeah, I watched my fiance play it, but like she showed me the skill trees and everything. No, you can't teach me. And I'm like, nope.
No, that's fair.
Just writes my chat. I can teach you. No.
Yeah,
I refuse.
it's something that GGG Grinding Gear Games have said. They're like, our game is aimed at the hardcore audience. It's aimed at the people who like to look at the spreadsheets and min-max the crap out of things. The game itself allows so much freedom to do what you want. You can make things as difficult as you want, essentially. Like in Diablo 4, you've got Uber Lilith, which is the one pinnacle boss they have, where it's a really hard boss with actual mechanics.
Have you beat her yet?
I haven't even attempted it yet. I wasn't that drawn to the fight. Like I'll do it once probably, but there's no real reason to do it other than doing it the once. Well, I also don't want to hit mommy.
Uber mommy.
I don't want to hit mommy.
For regular mommy?
She can hit me. But yeah, so it's two different games, but one thing that they've done with Path of Exile 2 in comparison to Path of Exile 1 is they've substantially changed the combat. You'll notice this dude here that's on screen is a monk. That's a new class, first and foremost. Also, you'll notice, here's another difference. When you play a game and you've got a hand in a quest, maybe you found an object, you have to then go back to town and speak to the relevant person. They've put a quality of life thing where what they've just done, they summoned the NPC to you. So you go, oh, I've got this thing. I need to speak to Alva now because Alva knows about this place that I'm in. So you can just bring the NPC to you. So you could bring any NPC, but if you know that they're going to have quest dialogue, or you suspect they're going to have quest dialogue, you can just be like, okay, can you come here? I can talk to you, do what I need to do, and without actually leaving the zone. So it's just a small quality of life thing like that. They've done so many things like that. But going back to what I was going to originally discuss, the melee combat is substantially different. This monk character, a lot of the moves that they've done now have some form of motion. Like they'll step forward when they're doing an attack if they're out of range to bring you into range. Because previously in Path of Exile, the animations were basically from the hip up. So you had to design it so they would stand in an idle stance, do the attack, and then revert back to the idle stance. They've now changed it. So one, there's mobility, so you're not held in place. So it's easier for melee, because a lot of people complained about melee combat in PoE 1 being substantially more difficult, which it is, and it's because of mechanics. But aside from that, they've also done it so the moves actually connect and are a bit more fluid. So you're not going from one animation and then cutting into another animation. If you swing your weapon and it ends up on one side of you, another animation will bring it into your next move, kind of thing.
Oh, that's
so like
called,
connecting
is
animations.
it called like aliasing? It's something like that.
Something...
Where they basically merge the animations together and the game figures it out as they go.
Yeah,
that's pretty dope.
Yeah, so it
that's
looks
really
super smooth, like the way the monk moves around, and a lot of the moves as well, like you don't just have a straight line dash. You can control if it's got multiple parts to the move. Like there's one move the monk does where they slam the staff and then do a flip for a second one. So you could actually change the direction of the second slam, as it were. Also, there's like pathing. So if you did a dash into where you would ordinarily clip a rock or something or a corner, and it would just stop the move, they've put technology in where it will see there is a path to get around it, and it will try and path you around it, which is really nice. Because again, in Diablo 4, you don't really get that. You get stuck on shit all the time. But yeah, they've done like loads of really cool things. Like I said, no cooldowns. You can have substantially more and more powerful skills, because in PoE 1 the general meta is you get one skill and then you make that one skill stupidly powerful, because you can give that one skill 5 other support skills, as it were, to change it in some way. In PoE 2 you can do that for every skill, because in PoE 1 it was based on your item. So if you had an armor that had 6 sockets, 1 for the skill and then 5 for the changes you want to make, but then your other item pieces had less sockets because they're smaller. Like your helm would have 4 sockets. In PoE 2 everything can have up to 6 sockets because it's no longer attached to your armor. It's just its own little skill system. It still uses gems and stuff like that. There was another thing where this guy, he was playing it, he found something called an uncut gem. So in PoE 1 to get your skills you have to find the skill gem, and it's whatever it drops as. In PoE 2 it's uncut.
Now you can craft them.
So now you essentially craft them. So you pick up the uncut gem and then you click on it and it opens a book and it goes, okay, these are what are available to you at this character level. What do you want it to be? So you can just be like, okay, well, I'm making a fireball build, or a fire base build, so I'm going to pick all the fire gems as I go along, as I find them. But of course, what you can also do is collect those and then give them to an alt. So when your alt's leveling, they can
and then
just
craft your build.
Yeah. And the level of the
No
gem...
wonder the hardcore love this game. They can just craft forever.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like, God,
I get lost on all the crafting shit too.
in Diablo 4, your characters are of a particular archetype.
I'm so impressed.
So you pick like a sorceress, and if you pick a sorceress, you're going to be someone who casts spells and things like that. In Path of Exile, you can take whatever the archetypes they've made, but it only has like a somewhat incremental impact on the build. So you could technically pick the ranger, but make them a spellcaster because you've worked out how to benefit from those skills. Like one thing I used to do was I'd make what's called a Deadeye, which was supposed to be like a bow build or a bow class. And they had an ability that made projectiles bounce off walls. So I turned them into a caster where my spells that were projectiles would bounce off walls and things like that. So you could basically change the game how you want. You could turn
so you can get any synergy you want from anything.
Essentially, there are some
how
limitations.
Do you balance that?
Very carefully, and there's like there's 200 like basic skills, like spells, attacks, and stuff like that, and then you can manipulate them in other ways. So, for example, you could have a projectile ability where you fire an arrow just to keep it simple. You can then change it so it has more arrows, so you get greater multiple projectiles, so it adds 5 more projectiles. You could then go, okay, Jesus. I want to give those projectiles bleed. Bleed is physical damage, but all of the abilities that I've got and spec'd into do fire, additional fire damage. So here's a gem that converts it from physical to fire damage. And then here's a gem that makes it explode when it impacts as well. And then so on and so forth. So you can literally change the skill to something completely different from what it started as.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That is insane.
Listening, and I'm so fascinated. I'm just so like, it just sounds so like complicated.
It is. It is complicated.
I can tell why hardcore gamers love this game.
It's depth,
like,
the amount
so
of depth in
depth.
just building.
And the amount of like time you have to invest in games like this, I can understand. Like that's
the thing. Like with each season, you're gonna have some people who play for 2 weeks and they go, "Cool, I made one character. I got to some of the end game stuff." Like there's the game, whilst it being aimed at a hardcore audience, doesn't necessarily mean that everyone in that audience plays to the best end game stuff. There's going to be stuff.
Oh, right. Like but there's just so much. There's so much you can do.
Yes.
There's so much you can do wrong. That's
there's
what
so
scares
much
me.
You can do wrong, which we know. I'm a pro at that.
Another big difference is the boss fight. So we're actually watching a boss fight now, where there's more.
Yeah, I've been watching this.
There's loads more like telegraphical skills in Diablo 4. It's like boss hits you and has big health, and then occasionally we'll do like some kind of move, kind of like what you just saw there, where it'll do like a cone attack, but then it's only got the one cone attack. Like you've got the Blood Bishop who hits you every now and then, fires some projectiles, and then occasionally grabs you. Whereas this one boss, this isn't even like an act boss. This is a zone boss as far as I'm aware. and this zone boss has like 12 different mechanics to dodge and like get around and things like that. And that's just like a basic boss, like I said, not something at the end of an act or one of the pinnacle bosses where they add substantially more mechanics. Like at the end game, it becomes more of a bullet hell in some ways because some of the mechanics. And yeah, it's pretty cool. They're also making it 2 separate games. Initially, they were going to do like the Overwatch 2 approach, where they were going to upgrade the first campaign, so you still had the first campaign.
They were going to rip off their entire audience.
No. So when I say like Overwatch, I mean what Overwatch said they were going to do. So they were like,
I know nothing about ARPGs. All I have is stupid jokes, Brian.
I know. Don't worry. But yeah, so like in Overwatch, they said, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to add single player content. We're going to do all these things and iterate and make the engine better. Initially, that's what Path of Exile said, or GGG said. They were going to have the 2 separate campaigns so you could play them both at the same time or side by side. But you'd have obviously additional classes in the second campaign, things like that. But it was all supposed to be one game, and all your transactions, your cosmetics would apply to both. They have separated them now, but your transactions, so everything you've bought in Path of Exile 1, your cosmetics work in Path of Exile 2.
Oh, that's awesome!
And vice versa, other than things like
cool.
if you
That's
got
really dope.
a druid cosmetic, there's no druid in Path of Exile 1, so obviously those cosmetics wouldn't go across. So yeah, your cosmetics now and future span across both games. They're also staggering it. So
that's really fucking cool. Wow.
Well, their approach seems to be let's kill our players by having them addicted to their computer games. Because what they've done now is they're going to have it so there's a new season every 3 months. That's how it works. The first 2 months, you'd play PoE 2, and then the season for PoE 1 starts. So usually there's a bit of a drop-off halfway through the league or through the season. So what they've got is
going to be running both games at once. This isn't a sequel. This is another game.
It's like
and they're going to
continue.
They're going to, and they've said that they're going to go in slightly different directions. So PoE 1, because of the way it's built, obviously it'll get the new engine and stuff like that, but it'll still be quite zoomy. So if you do like your press one button, one skill, delete the screen, cool. But if you want something a bit more tactical, methodical, there's PoE 2. And if you like both, you can play the league for however many weeks or months, and then you can go, oh look, another new league for the other game that I really enjoy. And they've staggered it, which is really, really nice, to be honest. If you do enjoy both play styles and both games, and they're both free to play.
Is that viable? Can they do that?
I mean, GGG make a lot of money.
Well, you can say you can do that, but can you do that?
I mean, it would just be essentially 2 different studios.
So this is just, it sounds like just a massive expansion to the first game than an actual sequel. Like the fact that you could keep playing, like
the sequel sounds like a whole new ass game.
Yeah. So
no, I know. I mean, like the fact that you could still like all your shit carries over. It's like you play the new game.
This is what NFTs were supposed to be from like Ubisoft and shit, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then like GGG have done it without making them NFTs. Yeah.
Kudos to them,
it's going to be 2 separate games, but your cosmetics span both. PoE 1 is going to be more zoomery. It's going to continue getting expansions every 3 months. It's such a silly
thing, but the cosmetics thing is like so fucking cool because like
that is really cool.
No one's stash tabs
that, right?
And stash tabs as well.
Like the amount of times like when you play, like you buy cosmetics for games, like you kind of feel like you're resigned to be like, it's only for this game. So if a new one comes out, you always have to buy all the new cosmetics. The fact that you could carry them over is fucking cool.
Yeah, so they've carried them over.
So that means all the money you invested doesn't go to waste.
This isn't like Overwatch, because Overwatch was just like, we're just gonna basically port this game to this new build.
Underwatch.
This is a new fucking look at it. It looks nothing like it does look like the same kind of game, but it looks so much better and so much.
It looks great.
The engine's pretty, and like every time I watch.
What engine is it? Is it their own proprietary?
Yeah, it's their own engine, but it's obviously this is a big uplift compared to the previous engine. So like I said before, animations were limited pretty much to the hips. You were stuck in place. They've changed all these animations so that doesn't happen. They've changed a load of the in-game mechanics, so they're just better quality of life. For example, if you wanted to equip an aura, so that gave you a permanent buff, or you had something like cast on crit. So cast on crit is whenever you take a skill, you can give it cast on crit. So when it hits and crits, it would then trigger another effect. So things that are a permanent effect, where you'd press it once on your skill bar and then forget about it, that used to, or does in PoE 1, reserves mana. So what that led was to people using all of their mana to get as many buffs as they can, and then coming up with a solution to make whatever teeny speck of mana they had left to cast their abilities, which led to these super strong zoomery builds. They've now moved it so reservation is on its own resource called Spirit. So where the mana orb is, there's like a little quarter arch at the top. You can't really see it, but that fills up with white. You can get more Spirit. So if you want to have more auras, you get more Spirit and spec into Spirit. But otherwise, your mana is free to do and actually be used as a mana resource, which also means that they can change the mana costs of things. So things that are stupidly strong come with a large mana cost now, so you can't just spam them and be OP and things like that. So it's going to add a lot to balancing. I'm very, very excited for it. As an action RPG enjoyer, as a Path of Exile player, I am very, very stoked. And I'm concerned, in a way, for Blizzard, for Diablo 4, because all the hardcore audience that plays Diablo 4 because they enjoy the world and the good things that Blizzard do with Diablo 4 is just going to get completely overshadowed by the gameplay experience of Path of Exile 2, I suspect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. And when it comes out, Peachy, I'll be happy to try and teach you it.
Yeah, so like the question is there any, pun intended, path for casual people or people getting into this for the first time?
So
thank you, Pulp. I appreciate you.
So what Chris has been saying previously, Chris Wilson, he's like the game producer for GGG Games. So he's the guy who basically makes the final decisions. He's not a director, but he makes the final decisions and puts them out into the world and is the face of GGG in a lot of ways. In previous interviews, he has said that the campaign experience is going to be, one, really well written in comparison to PoE 1, because PoE 1, it was just a bunch of people who really liked Diablo 2 came together to make a studio to make their own game, so the story was kind of like Frankenstein together. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. They were just like, I don't know, you want to kill a boss? Well, here's a boss. Fuck you. Kind of thing. they didn't really care about the story, whereas the story in PoE 2 is supposed to be like really, really, really good. They also remarked that if you can technically complete quests without speaking to NPCs, and the NPCs will like react to that, they're like, who the fuck have you? Why did you? I mean, thanks. I did need that killing, but why are you killing shit without people telling you to do that? What are you doing? Like, characters like actually respond to you by ignoring them. So if you're not someone who's interested in lore, it actually changes the feel of the game a little bit, which I think is actually quite cool. But
that's cool.
Yeah, so they are going to make the new player experience or the onboarding experience better, but they also, he has said previously, like, for example, the campaign in Path of Exile 1 is designed in a way that it filters out the people who aren't going to be invested in the game, if you know what I mean. Like, I think, slightly paraphrasing, he was like, if you open up the skill system when you level up, or the passive skill tree, and it intimidates you, you're probably not going to enjoy our game. So he kind of uses it like a litmus test, which I think is a bit wank, because there's going to be some people who are like, oh, I've learnt it, and now that I've learnt it, yes, I enjoy it, kind of thing. So I do think it's a bad tactic that they've gone that way with PoE 1. We get the feeling they're not going that way with PoE 2, based on like things that the game director of PoE 2 said. It's still going to be a difficult game, though. It's like, as an action RPG, a game, both of them, PoE 1 and PoE 2, they are going to be more difficult than the games that you've played before. So your Diablos, your Grim Dawns, your Last Epochs, and things like that. The campaign alone is substantially more difficult. But yeah, I've been watching this. There's going to be more today. So after the stream, I'll be going to the VOD on the Path of Exile channel and just starting from zero and getting caught up on all the interviews. But yeah, it's been really interesting watching it all, and I'm very excited for this game. And I went on way too long in this segment.
I can tell you're very excited. It's awesome.
This is the uncut
It's
gem
longer
thing,
than
by the
I
way.
talked about Warhammer.
This is the uncut gem thing, by the
I
way.
know.
So he's just found the uncut gem, and you can then go, okay, so it goes to this skill level. So you can't just find like a level 1 gem and then get a level 10 skill out of it, if you know what I mean. Like, it's whatever gem you get is matched to it, and then that's the new socket system. So you actually socket.
So you don't
into
hoard
the
these
gem.
things for late game or whatever.
No. There's also trading. So what you would ultimately do is you'd probably find one or two of the things that you actually want, and then a fuckload of really good things but completely useless to you, and then you'd be able to trade and be like, listen, you either want currency or you want this thing that I've got. You've got the thing I want. Let's trade. And that's how you can like supplement your build, basically. So yeah. It's so good. The animations look really, really pretty and crisp as well. So they're showing the sorcerer now, or the wizard, I think it's called.
Pretty.
Oh, there was
It
another
does
thing.
look really
The combat looks fluid.
In Path of Exile 1
It
and
looks
in
so
Diablo
clean.
2, there's a weapon swap system, which is literally press a button and you have new weapons. They've iterated on this, and the reason they iterated on it is because what they wanted people to do is to have the second set of weapons for situations, like maybe this weapon is for doing your AoE shit, so you weapon swap to then attack the boss. And they ascertained that it was barely ever used. So what they've done is very similar to like the Arsenal system in Diablo 4, but customizable, because customization is PoE. You can have two sets of weapons. You can then allocate your skill to that weapon. So say in the example they gave, you've got a fire staff and a lightning staff. Your fire staff buffs your lightning skills. Your fire skills, and your lightning staff buffs your lightning skills. So you can go, okay, well, this is a lightning spell. So whenever I use this spell, you equip automatically the second set of weapons that buff that spell. And it changes the skills in the passive tree as well. So if you spec your passive tree to have loads of fire damage, you can equip the fire damage staff whenever you use the fire damage skills. And then you go, oh, I've got a lightning skill. It will equip the lightning staff and the different passives you've selected for the lightning skills. So it's like two loadouts.
So you're telling me I have to build two characters?
Not quite, but essentially. Like you've got the capacity to do that. You don't necessarily have to do it with two different builds. It could be two builds that's like complement each other. Like you've got one weapon that's really, really good for CCing, and then when things are CC'd, you've got another weapon that does damage to CC'd creatures or whatever, or knockdown creatures, stuff like that. So you can then change the specs. So you got all those hot swapping things that just, like there's so much depth and customization. I love it, kind of thing. It's just, there's this
fucking nerd.
There's an Atlas skill system. So you're like, I'm going to fight this boss. I'm going to make this boss even harder by going into this thing, which will get better rewards and stuff like that. You can customize the shit out of your play experience. Yes, that's me and PoE.
It was great. I really liked it.
Yeah, I only really wanted to cover the drama, but I kind of got lost in PoE too because it's beautiful.
Remember when this section was about Blizzard pissing people off?
Yeah, and then it just turned into Brian fanboying.
They pissed Brian off so much.
He went to
spoke about Path of Exile.
No, to be fair, like I have my beef. I have my beef with Blizzard. I do have my beef with Blizzard. I boycotted them for a year.
Buddy.
We watched in real time a Diablo fanboy be converted to Path of Exile.
To be fair, I've got like 1,000 or so hours in PoE. I didn't used to like PoE when it first came out though. So then they've iterated on it and made it cool. So yes.
10 out of 10. Best joke of the podcast.
That was good.
Thanks.
I like
Paul,
it.
did you have anything you wanted to cover?
Oh my god, I've only been I haven't really been playing too much the last couple weeks, but I just was picked up Remnant 2. Sorry, I almost said Path of Exile. My fiance is playing it right now, and I played it for the very first time yesterday. I've never played Remnant. So
okay,
it is.
Can I interject a small story about Remnant 2? Because someone came in my chat and they were like, "Oh, I've been playing Remnant 2." And I was like, "Oh, is it good?" Because I've been interested in it. And they went, "No, it's fucking terrible." I'm like, "Oh, what a shame! I really liked Remnant 1." And they're like, "No, I couldn't stand Remnant 1." Like, what? This doesn't help me.
Yeah. From what I've seen, it's.
I like it.
Yeah,
I've been having
fun. Giggle about it.
Most people have said
there's
it's
a dog,
really, really good.
The dog, which is always great.
Yeah, a lot of people said it's really, really good. It's difficult though, and
I died in the because I didn't know what to expect.
It's basically
So
what Redfall was supposed to be. Pretty much.
Wait,
so.
what?
It's a finished game.
Yeah, so I was just saying like Remnant 2 is what Redfall was supposed
buggy,
to be.
To be honest. It's pretty buggy. I was having issues last night when I was streaming it because I loaded it up for the first time like on stream, so like I like fully fresh and had never even been exposed to it, and I think I suffered from 2 crashes.
Right.
And I had to there's like an overlay from GeForce, I think, or what was it for? I can't remember. There was like certain what?
Yeah, it's the DSS.
DSS, thank you.
Right.
That it was causing crashes on my game, and I had to turn it off entirely. And after that, I didn't have any issues, but then I had like some connection issues. I think we also played with another person too for my chat who also was having some issues with connectivity. So it's not like a perfect game. Like it's buggy right now. But aside from that, as somebody who's brand new to the franchise, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I suck at it a lot, because I'm playing as a hunter. So
I've
I
heard
was explaining.
they've put a lot of like Easter eggs and secrets in it, including a secret for data miners. So they put a secret in the code that unlocks a class because they were like,
data mine their game.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think someone was
So
telling me
if you
about that
date
last
mine the
night,
game,
and
you
I was
unlock a
so fucking
class.
confused.
yeah.
I was very confused.
But like they've put loads of hidden
What's that?
classes.
0.2% of their audience.
Like, mate, they've put loads.
Well,
There's loads of classes you can unlock
Because
from
data
secret
miners
areas.
release that information though, so people will find out about it. I guess I don't know.
So they basically said they're like, we want to have loads of secrets in the game, but we know people are going to data mine it, so we thought we'd take the piss and put an unlockable thing
kind
in the
of cute
data
though
mining.
when you think about it. They're just kind of playing into the data mining. I like that.
But apparently there's loads of classes you can unlock.
Good attitude.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Data mining their game.
Like just in secret rooms and stuff that don't show up on the map. You'll have like environmental clues perhaps, but not like here's a sign that says not a secret room kind of thing. Like nothing like that. There was, I think Co-Carnage was playing one where he went into this foggy area which actively damages you when you're in it. But he managed to like get through and then jump onto this island where there was no fog, and he like looted a corpse or something, and it unlocked the engineer class and stuff like that. So like you can unlock, you can have two classes at once as well that supplement each other. So you unlock all these classes, and there's quite a few. I think the number I heard was like 12, and like the base starting game is like here's 4 or 5, I believe. Hope, can you confirm that? How many classes are at the beginning?
I think 4. Is it 5? It's 4, right?
5, but you can combine them.
There's 5, but you can combine them. That was it.
Yeah. So I believe in like there's another like 12 you can unlock just by playing the game, and it also it starts you at different points. I think
someone who joined us was an engineer, and which was like one of the newer like the combined classes, and she was just showing off like all like the little the guns and everything, all the perks that they get, and it seems like there's a lot of depth to the game. I'm just barely scratched the surface too, so I can't really speak much on my experience besides that I'm terrible at it. And I could pet the dog, and I took every opportunity to pet the dog.
Yeah, so there's a class that
game is
utilizes the
one?
dog.
There's a class that utilizes dog petting.
Not dog petting, but the dog itself.
Oh,
There's a dog, and if you play with someone who has the dog, you can still pet the dog. I'm not the class.
Oh, and you can pet other people's dogs.
If you pick handler, you can. There's a dog. It's like a German Shepherd. I'm a hunter, and I went and I was like, "Can I pet the dog?" And it took me a long time, and every chance I got, I would go pet that dog.
You can also pet a dog in PoE, by the way. Just throwing that out there. But yeah. So
before this, I was playing Oblivion. I went back to Oblivion.
You can pet cyber mastiffs all you want in Necromunda.
True. But yeah, from what I've been hearing, the story is the boss mechanics and stuff like that are really fun.
I'm still trying to understand it. Like
I don't think I ever understood the first story. It was just like, oh yeah, cool, do the thing.
It's like I was more like baffled by like I go to the home base, and this is like really early on in the game when I'm going in, and I'm like, why does everyone look like they're showered and everyone's young and attractive? And then there's Kurt Russell over here who's leading everyone. No idea. Someone's 132 years old. I'm still figuring it out. Just very confused. Why are there plants everywhere? I don't know.
And everyone has their own unique gameplay experience because you start in like a random zone. So you start a new game, someone else starts a new game, you're in completely different zones. Yeah,
I think my fiance, he said that he started off in like it looked a little bit like Bloodborne, and the area I'm in is Jesus Christ. I kept referring to Power Rangers. It's nothing like Power Rangers. But it's like this like very desolate like planet. I don't know. It's like lots of like husk like zombies from if you played Mass Effect. That's what they remind me of.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I didn't know that everyone had a different experience because I went in completely blind, knowing nothing about the franchise, and just having a lot
questions. Yeah,
none of them have been answered.
A lot of replayability. There's supposed to be, or rather, people have commented that it's better with another player, not because the single player experience is bad, but because of the way the classes work, they complement each other a lot more. So, for example, there's like
not my experience though.
One person started as the hunter class, so the one with the dog. But they were in a starting zone where the dog would basically be limited because they there would be like platforms they have to leap to, and the dog would run to the edge and go, oh, or fall off in some cases.
Yeah, the dog does do
So
that.
you can't utilize the dog.
Oh.
Yeah.
It makes me sad. You'll see the dog go like, I can't go up there. My experience has not been like that because the person I've been playing with is a handler and he runs off and I've been dying a lot because of it. Or the first time I playing this this area, we're looking through, I don't know what they're these like little sub like dungeon areas in the area I'm in, and wanders off and this big metal door just like closes on me and I'm like, well, I can't get in there. So he wanders off and apparently it was just like a section for him to get some treasure, and then the whole room flooded and he died. And I'm like, see, there's your karma right there. Left me alone. I couldn't figure out how to get him.
Like MSxABK commented
those are my experiences.
That the first like zone boss he came across, there's like a cliff before the boss. So if you got a gun, fine. But his dog would run to the cliff, fall off the cliff, and then you go, cool. The thing that keeps me alive, because the dog can heal you and stuff like that.
Yeah, the dog heals.
Immediately died because it ran at a boss that it can't reach and fell off the edge, which is, you could have put down to technically a bug. You know, you'd think there'd be some kind of invisible wall for the dog. But so that made...
No, we just watched the dog die.
Yeah, so that made his first zone, his first experience, a little bit sour because he's got a harder starting point because of the class he picked and because of the random zone he put. Whereas if he was put into a zone without that situation, the dog would be fine. So yeah.
It's like I was telling you earlier how like you know, my character is technically, or my class is more long range. So it kind of helps that I have someone who has the dog. But when in some of the areas we've been going into, there's a lot of enemies that will just like, they swarm you and they get straight.
Sorry, my camera went off its tits. Continue.
They'll just swarm me and like get in my face, and because I mean I have like a sword, but I have to upgrade it better so I'm actually capable of protecting myself.
Right.
And I'm just getting overrun. I'm like dying left and right. We're like, what the fuck?
Apparently things sneak up on you a lot. So it's third person over the shoulder, so things will come up behind you, but you can't quite see it. This
giant brain thing that came. We were walking down this narrow hallway, and out of nowhere, this giant brain thing just comes in. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And it just barrels into me, and my character just dies. And I'm just like, what the
There's
fuck?
nothing to tell you that something's behind you, so you have to proactively like check your back as well.
Yeah,
like, it's quite
I'm learning very quickly that I am. This is an entirely different play style for me to get used to.
It's Souls, but with guns.
I will say,
it's Dark Souls
when
with
I'm
guns.
playing Remnant, it's fun. It is funny as hell for me to play because, like, I'm one way when I play games like this. Like, I'm not a hardcore gamer by any stretch, and I just go in. That's why, like, usually I tag in like it's casual. Like, I'm going in to have fun.
Yeah, it's a game that I would like to play, but I would want to play it with another person. Like, just do a co-op run.
You play with us.
We'll play the game.
We'll play together, Brian.
There's too many games right now for me to think about.
Yeah, there's so many games right now. Like I have, my backlog is so big right now.
I'm worried that when Baldur's Gate comes out, a
couple days before leading up to this, I was playing Oblivion because I just went back and I was like, you know what? I want to revisit some jank.
Yeah, I'm concerned that when Baldur's Gate 3 comes out, I'm just gonna be gone. It's just like, okay, here I am, fucking bears.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for Baldur's Gate. Are you gonna bang as a bear?
I'm probably not gonna bang as a bear, but yeah, I can see myself getting very lost in that game because it's a mega game. It's not even a game; it's literally a planet in the form of a game. It's gonna be so fun. Peachy, what have you been doing over the last week?
I have been fundraising.
You've been rimming, haven't you? Actually, that's the point.
I was only rimming today.
That's the point. Where the fuck is the maid outfit, bitch?
Well, so
did you take it off before the podcast?
I need to redo my set, including I need to redo my set, right. Because it looks terrible on camera. It looks even worse to the eye. And I did a bit of fundraising, and tomorrow I will be playing Unholy, the spooky game, dressed as a maid.
Right. I thought you were dressed as a maid today because I saw the title of the stream, so I was like, "Oh, a maid stream! Oh, he's gonna be wearing it for the podcast."
It did say maid stream tomorrow.
It clips off on Discord. Leave me be.
It's called the Oocalypse. Oocalypse.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it
that's what's happening tomorrow. I only actually played Rimworld today. I played an interesting RTS where you're ants, which is really cool. It's not quite the RTS I was expecting. There's no like micro bandboxing directing kind of stuff. It's a bit more macro than it is micro, but it was really cool. It's I was a bit down on it because I'm like, God, this UI is terrible. And then I realized they're on version 0.3, and I'm like, oh, and you kind of forgive a lot of stuff when it's at that stage.
Right.
It's actually really cool because think about an ant colony. They have different types of ants and stuff, and that lends itself to like the RTS idea and all the other bugs that are trying to eat the ants, right? So those are your enemies, and you need to find food, which ants do most of the time, and they need to protect their queen, which is laying all the eggs and stuff. It's actually a really cool concept, and there's a lot of content there. It's just a bit visually janky to figure out what's going on.
Right.
But that's a really cool game. I've got Baldur's Gate coming up soon, and then we've got Starfield and the Phantom Liberty. So
I can't wait for Starfield.
I've mostly been playing like one-shot games and a little bit of Tony Hawk. I'm sorry I've let everyone down.
With Baldur's Gate,
well,
is that
Starfield's
going to be
great. I already have my copy. I'm ready.
With Baldur's Gate, is that going to be a filler game, or are you going to stream an entire playthrough?
I probably won't get to an entire playthrough because there's other games coming out, which I have already pre-ordered.
Big games like Baldur's Gate, like I can't do the whole playthrough. I just go in every now and again.
Well, I'm gonna hit it like hard and then play it till it die. I usually play games on stream until they die.
Oh yeah, it's coming out. Wait, when is Baldur's Gate supposed to come out? I guess next week.
The 2nd of August, I believe.
Either the 2nd or the 3rd. It's next week. Which I'll be live to play. So I was like, you know what? I can't afford a £50 game right now because there are so many games coming out.
Right.
But it's been a fundraiser, and everyone's been like, "Hey, you did that goal. Here's Baldur's Gate." Like what?
Oh, that's very
so
nice.
it's been rough here at the towers, but it's gotten a lot better.
That's good. Bunch
of games coming.
I've been watching One Piece.
Oh,
which is
like from the beginning.
Yeah, I've got a guide
Christ.
that skips the filler, so I've skipped probably like 7 or 8 episodes. But yeah, I'm in the hundreds.
Of how many?
It's like close to 2,000 or something super low.
Oh my god!
It's over
1,000. 7 or 8 out of 2,000 is fine.
No, I've only watched like I think I'm on 113, 114, something like that. Yeah. Well,
the sad thing, Peachy, is that is actually only for this series.
Yeah, no,
That's
I've heard about One Piece, but luckily I don't really care about anime. So
I've been putting it
heard
off.
the stories. I've heard the lore of One Piece.
Everyone says that. Oh, I know. I ain't got time for that right now. And then they always do, and they're like, "Oh my god, it's great!" But then they'll say, "But don't you try it?"
Find One Piece. I've always heard it. They say it's great.
Yeah. So,
but they also say, "Don't watch it because there's too much."
Yeah. So it's one of the big 3. So the big 3 are Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. They all came around about the same time, and were relatively accessible via just terrestrial television or cable, whatever. You could watch it on the daily without issue very easily, as opposed to other animes you'd have to go to like specialist websites and stuff like that. So I was
special interest websites
tentacles, but so
dragon.
it was a case of, is it popular because it's one of the big 3 and it was really accessible, or is it actually good? Now I've watched Naruto, which I enjoyed, but I also made sure that I was stoned for 99% of that kind of thing. So being high made it.
I remember watching Naruto when I was in my stoner days too.
I actually tried to watch Naruto, and my only problem with it is the titular character is an absolute. I hate Naruto, the actual Naruto.
Yeah, he's annoying.
Everyone else is kind of okay.
I remember I watched. I think. Oh God, I was young when I watched Naruto, and because I spent a summer vacation watching the whole series, and then it was when Shippuden was about to come out, and I was like, "Oh, dude, like time skips could be better." Like, you know, I hate watching shows when it's a kid. I want so. Right. Then I went and watched that, and then I think like I forgot when it was. I hit the fillers, and I was like, "Not again."
Yeah.
Just stop watching.
When I first started watching Naruto, I didn't consider a filler guide because I didn't know how bad it was going to be. And then, like,
I went through all the fillers. I was like dedicated, and yeah, I think after that, it was like it burned me out so bad.
Yeah,
so I know.
After the first 40 episodes, I think it was, it's 100 episodes of filler. Just filler. So nothing that was in the actual manga. It's just side stories they've made up to burn to time. And I watched all of them.
For One Piece?
No, for Naruto. So when I first watched Naruto,
you're probably right. There was like there isn't really that much like when it comes to like what's actually in the manga and what's like story relevant. I remember there was like a whole shit ton after damn it, I can't remember all the there was a big fight between Naruto and Sasuke, I remember, and then Sasuke leaves. Then there's a huge filler arc after that. Yeah,
so like there's 100 episode filler arc. So I remember watching all of that before someone was like, "Oh, you can get a guide and it will tell you which ones to skip." So I did that, and then you end up skipping half.
It makes it a lot more easily.
It makes it a lot more digestible. With One Piece, I'm doing the same again. So I'm using something to skip the guides. I do think it's better than both Naruto and Bleach. Bleach was kind of like a bit wank, to be honest. Like, it looked cool.
I didn't like Bleach.
Yeah, the story in Bleach and the writing in Bleach was really, really horrible. Naruto, it was like, oh, there was some moments where I was like, oh, my heart kind of thing, and like it's cute.
There's some good stuff in Naruto. It's funny because like I remember really enjoying it, and I just never wanted to go back after Shippuden. I told you I just stopped after when the filler started. But that was when it was in syndication when I was watching it. That's how long ago this was when I was watching it. And I was like, I can't fucking do that shit again. And by the time, like, I mean, I didn't even know that there was another series until like last year.
Yeah,
Boruto.
Yeah. So with One Piece, I went into it and I was like, oh, like the art style looks really goofy. Like I still can't get over the art style. But people are like, no, it's really like, in comparison to the other two, there are some really dark themes in the show. But you end up being like, okay, this is really, really serious. This is really, really dark. There's now a man with a gargantuan nose, and he's flinging bogeys at people for his superpower, and the bogeys explode. And you're like, what? What's going on? Like, why?
Honestly, God, Brian, I would have to be stoned to watch One Piece.
I have been somewhat inebriated the entire time, and that has made it enjoyable. But it's definitely not S tier. Like, if you're into anime, like if you're into anime. The big three, the most popular and beloved animes in the world, are actually not the best animes in the world. They're like if you had to assign an arbitrary number out of 10, it'd be like a 7 out of 10. You know, it's above average, it's entertaining.
Who's your favorite character so far?
In One Piece?
Yeah, I don't know any of the characters, just lay it on me though.
One thing I did notice, and this isn't like to say they're my favorite character, but there's a female character called Nami, and at the very beginning, she's
I know about Nami.
Very like plain.
She's smart.
But no, that's the thing. In episode 1, she's like an A cup. And then like every 10 episodes, they get bigger.
So
every
smart.
10 fucking episodes. It's not literally every 10, but like I've gone from like, oh, she's got like bee stings to she could use those as weapons kind of thing. Like it has dramatically changed. And I was like, what's going on? But yeah, I don't know.
Every time I see like One Piece like figurines, it's always Nami.
Yeah, like I would say
she's very smart.
Zoro was probably my favorite character so far because he's the most normal. To be honest, like he's the least goofy. Like he's a bit of a jock character. Like he's almost he's not dumb, but he's not exactly the quickest witted.
You like the jocks. You're a fan of the Chad characters.
Well, no, it's just more of he's fucking weird. Like the other characters. The other characters are just like a bit questionable as people, kind of thing. But yeah, I've been watching
just wait in One Piece.
Well, apparently it gets better and better as time goes on, and it was one of those things that's like, well, if I have to grit my teeth to get through the first 20-30 episodes, is it really a good show? And I've been gritting my teeth with it, or alleviating my immersion, let's say, with non-sobriety, and it's been all right. It's been watchable. I've been enjoying it. Does anyone else have anything else to
in
discuss?
my chat, there's an explanation for why her boobs keep getting bigger. Apparently, right around the time her boobs.
know.
I'm telling you anyway. If I have to know, you have to know. Around the time Nami's boobs got bigger was when the creator of One Piece got married, and he's just constantly horny for his wife.
Fair enough.
And that's a reason if I've heard one.
Fair. That's fair. Does anyone else have anything?
That's not how it works.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything before we end the show?
I suck at Tetris on the Switch.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Okay.
I've been playing a lot of it.
But
And
you're
I suck
you're
at
good
it.
at Tetris on
Tetris
other
99.
devices.
Well, I like Tetris.
Is it
I'm pretty
Tetris
good.
99? You've been
You know when
playing?
you play a game and you get better at it the more you play it?
PT.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
Is it-
Yeah, Tetris
Is it
99.
Yeah, I haven't played that. I've heard a lot about
I
it.
started off and I'm hitting like my first couple of games I was like top 40 and then I hit the like top 20 and then I was like trying hard to play because I'm like, oh, I'm getting into this and I cannot get past 80 or 70 anymore. I don't know the
Did you-
game.
You'll be playing against all the sweaty people as well. Like that's been out. 'Cause
I'm
that's
just turning on the game and joining a game.
that's
I don't think
the-
you're
Well,
playing a game.
that's your problem,
No, but-
Peachy. Don't just join.
What I'm saying is because it's a battle royale, isn't
They
it?
have to join you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you're being put up against other players who've probably been playing it since it came out, which was what, a year or two ago, like when a battle royale has been out for a year, the player base is the
I was
sweaty.
better when I started. Before I wasn't even like, you know, you push up to make the piece instantly go. I wasn't doing that when I started, and I was doing much better.
Fair.
And now I suck. And I don't think there's a ranking, and if there is, I'm not high up that ranking, so I don't
I imagine
understand
there's-
why I'm getting worse at the game.
I imagine there is some kind of internal ranking system to matchmake, because that would be a shit show otherwise. But yeah, was there anything else you wanted to discuss, Paul, before we do shoutouts?
No, I'm probably gonna be on a little bit later tonight playing. I was gonna check out either Unholy or The Chant, or maybe more Remnant 2. I'm not sure yet. I have to eat before I make that
case,
decision. But aside from that, no,
well,
not
let's
too much.
Do shoutouts then. So when you are on later, where can people find you?
At twitch.tv/pulpfictionally.
And
And you can find,
socials?
I'm a former Instagram model turned variety streamer, and you'll find me on all my social medias, including X. But at, all my social medias are under Pulp Fictionally, except on Twitter. I'm dead naming it as Plot Fictionally. And I'll be on around 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Nice. Peachy.
Hi, I am Peachy Pixel Made, but tomorrow only. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of fun things happening tomorrow, which I'm not going to tell you about, but there will be fun things that you can join in and have fun. And I will be dressed as a maid. I'm playing a spooky ass game because the demo was pretty cool. I thought the demo had a lot of atmosphere to it, so I'm looking forward to playing that. So don't tell me a word about it, Pulp. If you play
I'm
it
not
later.
I'm not that far. I'm interested. I was gonna say I'm very interested to hear your thoughts about it.
Pulp is also wearing a maid outfit while playing it, so
I
a bit
am a
awkward.
maid.
One
I'm
of us is
always
going to
wearing
have
a
to
maid
change, and it ain't me, love.
I don't own a maid outfit, but apparently Peachy does, so he's one up me.
Mm-hmm.
He
I
can lend you.
definitely don't own two.
I could borrow Peachy's. Okay. He could lend it to Kevin.
Definitely do not have one that will fit you.
And my name. Oh, sorry.
Peachy,
And Brian. where can we find
Twitch.tv/Peachy Pixelate. I'm not using X very much, so I'm on Threads and Instagram.
I
all
have
the
Threads
same name.
and Blue Sky. Did you get Blue Sky?
I do, but I've not used it because they're
I'm not- it's
mining me
boring.
for AI. Fuck off.
We're all over the place here. I'm sorry. Brian,
Yes,
where
Brian.
can we find you?
So I can be found everywhere on the internet under Brian the Pirate. That's Brian with a Y. Thank you to my fantastic hosts, or co-hosts rather, Pope and Peachy, for coming on each week and providing entertainment for all of you. You should all be thankful, and to do that you should subscribe to the YouTube channel, the
Yes.
X account or Twitter account, and yeah, thank you all for hanging out with us. That's going to be it from us this evening. We will see you in 2 weeks time. Farewell. Or remember,
Bye.
I'm pressing the wrong button because I don't know what I'm doing. Where's the end screen? I still haven't made an end screen button, for fuck's sake. Bear with me. Bye, chat.
Oh my